My earliest memories are snapshots tinged with a melancholic blue. Dad, a figure in a faded photograph tucked away in a dusty album, left before I turned 5. Mom, Anna, became a storm cloud hovering over our tiny apartment. One moment, she'd be frantically scrubbing the kitchen floor, muttering about starting fresh. The next, she'd scoop me into a crushing hug, her grip so tight it left me breathless. These suffocating embraces, though infrequent, were the only displays of affection I craved. Mostly, I was a small shadow trailing behind her. She'd flit about the apartment, her face etched with a worry that seemed to have a life of its own. Sometimes, when the worry lines deepened and her brow furrowed, she'd leave me with Mrs. Rodriguez downstairs. When Mom finally returned, the tension would crackle in the air, like static electricity. She'd ruffle my hair with a distracted sigh, a gesture that felt more obligatory than loving. Then, a fleeting smile would flicker across her face, a glimpse of the warmth I desperately craved. Mom started dating again. Alex, a man with eyes that crinkled at the corners when he laughed, entered our lives. Unlike the whirlwind that was Mom, he moved with a gentle calm. He treated me with a kindness that felt foreign in our tense household. One day, after a particularly humiliating incident with Jessica Miller and her posse at school, I found myself clinging to him on the couch, tears blurring my vision. Why do they always pick on me? I mumbled into his shirt, the familiar ache of loneliness constricting my chest. He knelt before me, his eyes reflecting a concern I wasn't used to seeing from adults. They pick on you because they're insecure, he said softly, wiping away a stray tear. They want to feel powerful by making others feel small. His words were a balm to my wounded spirit. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within me. Maybe, just maybe, things were starting to look up. But hope, in my world, was a fragile butterfly, easily crushed. Then came Lily. A tiny bundle of joy with eyes that mirrored Mom's. She arrived a year later. Suddenly, I wasn't the center of attention anymore. All the warmth, all the affection, seemed to evaporate, replaced by a cold indifference. Mom's focus shifted entirely to Lily, leaving me to navigate the confusing world of childhood alone. 14. Awkward braces, a permanent frizz halo around my head, and a knot of insecurity the size of Texas, tightening in my gut. It was also the age when my mom's negativity towards me bloomed into a full-blown weed garden. Take picture day at school. Mom took the day off work to fuss over Lily's pigtails and pick out the perfect sparkly dress. When it came to my turn, a sigh escaped her lips as she rummaged through my closet. "Ugh, nothing decent in here," she muttered. Of course, when picture day arrived, Lily looked like a little princess, and I resembled a rumpled dandelion compared to her sunflower. Mom cooed over Lily's photo, while mine got a cursory glance and a dismissive grunt. Alex, bless his kind heart, tried to be the positive voice in my life. He'd take me shopping sometimes, helping me pick out clothes that actually fit and flattered me. One day, after a particularly frustrating day with Mom, I found myself clinging to him, the need for comfort overwhelming. "Dad," the word slipped out before I could stop it. He froze, then a pained expression crossed his face. Mom appeared in the doorway, her eyes blazing. "You have one father, Elena," she hissed, her voice laced with venom. "And trust me, he deserves you." Her words stung like a slap. Alex, sensing the tension, ruffled my hair awkwardly. "Look, it's okay," he mumbled. "It's not okay," I choked out, tears welling up in my eyes. Lily, who had been watching the whole scene unfold with a smug expression, suddenly piped up. "Elena's been bad again, Daddy. She took my candy without asking." 16. The land of first crushes, awkward dances, and a constant knot of nerves in my stomach. Dating, however, was a minefield in my house. Mom had a knack for sabotaging any potential romance before it even sprouted legs. Take Mark, for example. Tall, funny, and with a smile that could melt glaciers, he was everything a teenage girl could dream of. After weeks of nervous texts and stolen glances, I finally gathered the courage to ask him out. He said yes. Excitement bubbled in my chest, a feeling quickly replaced with dread at the thought of him meeting Mom. The night of our date, Mom went into overdrive. She fussed over Lily's bedtime story, making sure it stretched on for an eternity. When Mark finally arrived, looking nervous but sweet, Mom greeted him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Elena never cleans her room," she announced casually, as if discussing the weather. "You might find socks and pizza boxes under that mountain of clothes." My cheeks burned like they were on fire. Mark gave a nervous chuckle, but the awkward silence stretched like a bad joke. The rest of the evening was a disaster. Mom kept making snide remarks about my weight, my taste in music, even my choice of college. By the end of the night, Mark practically ran out the door, leaving me feeling like a deflated balloon. The story repeated itself with a few unfortunate guys after that. Each time I brought someone home, Mom would turn into a master of backhanded compliments and subtle digs. My self-confidence took a nosedive, and any potential relationship fizzled out faster than a wet firecracker. 18. The age of college applications, nervous goodbyes, and a fierce determination to break free from the suffocating grip of my childhood. Senior year became my mission control, a strategic plan to launch myself into a world where Mom's negativity couldn't reach me. College applications became my weapon of choice. I spent hours hunched over the kitchen table, pouring my heart and dreams onto those pristine white pages. Every acceptance letter was a victory, a tiny shard of hope chipping away at the wall Mom had built around me. Of course, she didn't make it easy. When I announced my acceptance to a university across the state, her reaction was a masterpiece of passive aggression. "Oh, Elena," she sighed, shaking her head. "So far away. How will we ever see each other?" It was a question loaded with guilt, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. "We can video chat, Mom," I said, my voice steady. "Besides, there are these things called airplanes." Alex, my ever-supportive anchor, was thrilled for me. "This is amazing, Elena," he beamed, pulling me into a tight hug. "I'm so proud of you." His words were a warm hug on a cold day. He may not have been my dad by blood, but he felt more like one than the man who walked out on us all those years ago. College was a revelation. Surrounded by people who didn't know my family history, I finally felt like I could breathe. I blossomed in a sea of new experiences, challenging myself academically and forging friendships that felt genuine and supportive. 27. The land of adulting, spreadsheets that never seemed to end, and a tiny apartment that felt like a palace compared to my cramped childhood bedroom. Life, for the most part, was good. My job as an economist kept my brain buzzing, and David, my amazing boyfriend for the past few years, brought a warmth and laughter into my life I hadn't known before. One evening, over takeout Thai food and a bottle of wine, David dropped a bombshell. "So," he said, looking at me with that goofy grin I adored, "I think it's time we met each other's parents." My stomach lurched. Meeting David's folks was easy, a breeze, even. They lived in a cozy house with a backyard that smelled like freshly cut grass, and they welcomed me with open arms. His mom, Sarah, practically smothered me in hugs, and his dad, Michael, spent the entire evening cracking jokes that had me snorting into my napkin. They were warm, funny, and genuinely interested in getting to know me. It felt normal, a word I never dared associate with family dinners in my past life. But the thought of David meeting my, interesting family filled me with dread. How could I explain the years of emotional neglect, the constant jabs, the suffocating negativity? I told him everything, the fights, the tears, the way Mom had chipped away at my self-esteem for years. Lily, unsurprisingly, hadn't gotten any better, now a master manipulator who knew exactly how to push my buttons. David listened patiently, his hand resting gently on mine. "Elena," he said firmly, "I'm marrying you, not your family. They may be baggage, but you're the prize." His words were a balm to my soul, a declaration of love that washed away years of doubt. Maybe, just maybe, I could finally build a happy family of my own, one filled with love, acceptance, and laughter, the kind of family I never had, but the kind I always deserved. My stomach twisted tighter than a pretzel as I dialed Alex's number. This was it. D-Day for breaking the news about David and the engagement. "Hey, Elena. What's up?" Alex's familiar voice boomed through the phone. "Hey, Alex," I said, taking a deep breath. "There's something I need to tell you." I launched into the story, spilling the beans about David, the proposal, and the upcoming wedding. There was a comfortable silence on the other end of the line, then a genuine laugh erupted. "Elena, that's fantastic. I'm so happy for you both." His words washed over me like a warm wave, easing some of the anxiety knotting my insides. "Listen," he continued. "You gotta bring him over for dinner. Let me meet the guy who finally snagged you." David, bless his supportive heart, was all for it. So, a few weeks later, we found ourselves pulling up to my childhood home, a place that still held a strange mix of nostalgia and dread. Mom answered the door, her face breaking into a surprised smile. "Elena, you came to visit? And who is this handsome fella?" "Mom, this is David, my fiance," I said, offering a tight smile. David stepped forward, extending a hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Turner." Mom beamed, shaking his hand a little too enthusiastically. "The pleasure's all mine, dear." "So, David, what do you do for a living?" David, oblivious to the undercurrent of Mom's question, launched into a detailed explanation of his work as a director at a large company. Alex, ever the smooth operator, chimed in with jokes and stories, keeping the conversation flowing. Lily, of course, wasn't about to be outdone. She spent the entire meal batting her eyelashes at David, interrupting our conversations to pepper him with inane questions about his job and hobbies. Mom, ever the doting mother, fawned over Lily's every word, a stark contrast to the thinly veiled barbs she kept throwing my way. "Elena, honey," she'd say, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "you really should take some fashion tips from Lily. That dress you're wearing, well, it's not exactly flattering." David, thankfully, seemed oblivious to the digs. But I knew exactly what Mom was doing. She was subtly putting me down, making me feel insecure right in front of my fiancé. The entire dinner felt like a twisted performance, a play where I was constantly reminded of how I wasn't good enough, not pretty enough, not successful enough. By the time dessert rolled around, I was ready to run screaming. As soon as it was polite, we made our excuses and left. The moment we were safely buckled into the car, David let out a long sigh. "Your mom, she's a character, isn't she?" he said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "Yeah," I muttered, a wave of exhaustion washing over me. "She can be." He squeezed my hand gently. "But hey, we made it through dinner, right?" He was right. We had. And even with Mom's negativity hanging in the air like a bad smell, the simple act of holding David's hand filled me with a sense of strength and purpose. This was my future, a future I was building with him, not with my dysfunctional family. The warm glow of post-dinner satisfaction lingered in the air as David and I curled up on the couch, poring over wedding magazines. We envisioned a small, intimate ceremony in a charming vineyard, surrounded by the people who loved and supported us. It was perfect. Then, the next morning, the dream shattered into a million pieces. My phone buzzed with David's name, his usual cheerful ringtone replaced by a ringing that sent a shiver down my spine. "Elena," he said, his voice tight with a mix of anger and disbelief. "We have a problem." My stomach lurched. "What's wrong?" He took a deep breath. "Your mom." The blood drained from my face. "What did she do this time?" David explained, his words hitting me like punches. Mom, the ever-reliable manipulator, had somehow unearthed his work phone number. And instead of a congratulatory call, she'd unleashed a verbal tirade that would make a sailor blush. Apparently, in her twisted world, I was the epitome of inadequacy, ugly, dull, and lacking any social graces. It didn't stop there. She'd even dragged Dad into it, dredging up his abandonment years ago like a weapon. But the piece de resistance? She'd suggested David ditch me and turn his sights on Lily, claiming my younger sister was the epitome of beauty and brains. Fury boiled up inside me, a hot, venomous rage. How dare she? How dare she try to sabotage my happiness yet again? David, bless his heart, was furious too. But he channeled his anger into something unexpected, a plan. A crazy, audacious plan that was equal parts risky and thrilling. We expose her, he said, his jaw clenched. We set a trap. The plan was audacious in its simplicity. David would call Mom back, pretend to be swayed by her words, and arrange a meeting to discuss this ludicrous proposal. His goal is to record this entire conversation on his phone. David made the call, his voice smooth and convincing. Mom, completely oblivious to the web she was about to walk into, readily agreed to meet him for coffee. A nervous laugh bubbled up from my chest. This was it. Operation Momzilla Takedown was a go. The outcome was uncertain, but one thing was clear, I wasn't going to let my mother dictate my future any longer. This time, the tables were turning, and I was ready to play for keeps. I decided to attend their meeting. The thought of confronting Mom, especially disguised as a stranger, sent shivers down my spine. But the anger simmering inside me, the anger at her constant negativity and her attempt to sabotage my happiness, was a powerful motivator. Back in my comfy jeans and a worn-out t-shirt, I slipped into a corner booth at a bustling cafe across the street from our designated meeting spot. Thick black glasses perched on my nose completed the disguise, transforming me into a nondescript observer. Butterflies danced a frenetic jig in my stomach as I watched Mom sashay into the cafe, a triumphant smile plastered on her face. She spotted David at the prearranged table in a private room, her smile widening further. This was it. Operation Momzilla Takedown was officially underway. David, bless his tech-savvy heart, had discreetly turned on the dictaphone on his phone. Me? Well, I heard their entire conversation in the immediate vicinity. Their conversation started innocently enough, David playing the part of the interested suitor. Then, Mom, completely ignoring his phone, launched into her diatribe. You know, David, she began, leaning in conspiratorially. Between you and me, Elena just isn't wife material. My blood ran cold. The woman who was supposed to be my mother, the woman who was supposed to love and support me, was bad-mouthing me to a complete stranger. She's, well, a bit simple, Mom continued, her voice laced with fake sympathy. Not very pretty either, if you know what I mean. David, to his credit, kept his face impassive, simply nodding along and murmuring noncommittal phrases. Inside, I knew he must be fuming. But Lily, Mom's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. Now that's a girl with potential. Smart, beautiful, knows how to handle herself in society. The audacity of it all. Lily, with her airhead personality and complete lack of work ethic, was apparently the epitome of elegance and intelligence according to Mom. The conversation continued, a masterclass in manipulation and deceit. Mom, blinded by her own delusions, even confessed to never loving my stepfather, claiming she'd only married him for his money. The woman had no shame. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Mom stood up, her face radiating self-satisfaction. Well, David, it was lovely meeting you. Think about what I said, she purred, patting his hand with a perfectly manicured nail. As she walked out of the cafe, I could only shake my head in disbelief. So, what now? I asked, my voice tight. David pulled me into a hug, his touch a source of comfort amidst the swirling storm of emotions. Now, he said, his voice firm. We expose her. The air crackled with tension as I walked into my childhood home that weekend. Mom's smile was a mile wide, radiating a smugness that set my teeth on edge. Elena, honey, you won't believe it, she gushed, the words tumbling out before I even had a chance to say hello. What's that, Mom? I asked, already bracing myself for a bombshell. David, she declared, her voice dripping with a sickening satisfaction. Decided to see reason. He's leaving you and marrying Lily. My heart did a little stutter, but I forced a smile. That's great, Mom. Really happy for them. My stepdad, bless his perpetually confused soul, cleared his throat. Leaving her? But I thought they were getting married? Lily, who had been lounging on the couch like a pampered cat, snorted a laugh. Apparently not, Dad. Elena just wasn't good enough for him, shocker. I ignored her snide remark, my eyes locked on Mom's triumphant face. It was showtime. Actually, Mom, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. David's right here. Just then, David walked in, a sly grin plastered on his face. His presence sent a collective gasp echoing through the room. Hi everyone, he said, his voice mild. Just in time for a little family fun. He pulled out his phone and pressed play. The room fell silent as Mom's voice, dripping with malice, filled the air. The conversation from the cafe played in its entirety, her diatribe about me, her praise for Lily, the shocking confession about my stepfather. The color drained from Mom's face with each passing sentence. Stepdad turned a shade of puce, his jaw slack with disbelief. As for Lily, her bravado crumbled, replaced by a terrified whimper. When the recording ended, a deathly silence descended upon the room. Then, my stepfather exploded. You lying, snake! He roared, his voice shaking with fury. You married me for money? All these years? Mom, for the first time in my life, looked genuinely lost. Tears welled up in her eyes, but they were overshadowed by the storm brewing in my stepfather's face. I want a divorce, he declared, his voice thick with anger. Get a lawyer. The room imploded. Mom and Lily burst into tears, their wails a cacophony of misery and self-pity. David, bless his heart, looked as comfortable as a fish out of water, caught in a hurricane. Amidst the chaos, I felt a strange sense of calm. The truth, ugly and raw, was finally out in the open. The years of unspoken hurt, the manipulation, the lies, it all spilled out, shattering the facade of our dysfunctional family. The following weeks were a blur of legalese, choked sobs from a stepdad, and icy stares from Lily whenever our paths crossed at the grocery store. Mom, the architect of this whole mess, retreated into a self-imposed social media blackout. As for me, I felt strangely hollow. The anger that had fueled me for so long was gone, leaving a gaping hole that needed filling. One sunny afternoon, David found me curled up on the couch, mindlessly flipping through wedding magazines that now seemed like dusty relics from a bygone era. Hey, he said, his voice laced with concern. You all right? I managed a weak smile. Yeah, just thinking. Everything just feels so different. He squeezed onto the couch beside me, pulling me into a hug. It is, he admitted. But hey, different can be good. A chance to start fresh, you know? His words were a gentle nudge in the right direction. Maybe he was right. Maybe the mom-shaped void in my life could be filled with something new, something exciting. A spark ignited in my chest. So, I said, a mischievous glint in my eyes. What do you say we do something crazy? David's eyebrows shot up. Crazy? Like what? How about a road trip? I suggested, a grin spreading across my face. Just us, a map, and the open road. No expectations, no timelines, just pure adventure. You had me at road trip, he declared. And so, our plans took a sharp turn. The meticulously planned vineyard ceremony morphed into a spontaneous cross-country adventure. We packed a beat-up camper van with essentials, copious snacks, a killer playlist, and a well-worn copy of On the Road, and hit the road with no destination in mind, only the promise of new experiences and shared memories. Fast forward a year, and David and I were standing at the altar, exchanging vows under a canopy of fragrant flowers. It wasn't the elaborate ceremony I'd once envisioned, but it was perfect. Instead of a disapproving mother, my stepdad, recently divorced and estranged from Lily, walked me down the aisle. The tears in his eyes were a mixture of pride and regret, and as he squeezed my hand, he muttered, You know, kiddo, I always knew you'd find your happily ever after. Life after the wedding settled into a comfortable rhythm. David and I built a life together, filled with laughter, love, and the occasional road trip adventure. My stepdad became a regular visitor, regaling us with stories from his travels and dropping not-so-subtle hints about wanting to be a grandpa. With a laugh, I'd reply, "Don't worry, you'll be the best grandpa ever." I'm Cameron, 35, and if you ever thought the toilet paper biz was for the soft-hearted, think again. My brother, Alex, and I inherited this empire of necessity from our folks. They left us with more than just machines and inventory, they left us a legacy we're hell-bent on growing. I run our flagship operation in one of the country's bustling metropolises, while Alex handles another branch a few cities over. We're a duo, alright, but miles and responsibilities keep us apart most times. Yet, when Alex swings by, it's not just figures and forecasts we dive into, we take a moment to remember where it all started, with our folks watching over us, hopefully tossing us a nod of approval from wherever they are. The branch was humming along just fine with me at the helm and my deputy, John, by my side. John's one of those rare gems who doesn't just get the job done, he gets me. "Cameron, this idea's gonna launch us to the moon," he'd say with that grin, and I'd fire back, "Let's not plan the parade just yet." We were in sync, pushing limits and breaking records. Then Mark strolled into our world, fresh-faced and sharp as a tack, our new sales director. The man had a way with words that could convince you the sky was green and not blue. It wasn't long before his professional courting turned personal, and he laid it on me straight, no chaser. "Cameron, you and I, we're not just making waves here. We're starting tsunamis. How about we make this a permanent partnership?" he said, his gaze steady, a challenge in his eyes. I laughed, thinking he was joking. "Marry you? You sure know how to spring a surprise, Mark." "What's next, running for president?" "Hey, I'm serious," he countered, that ever-confident smirk playing on his lips. "We're dynamite together. Let's not waste what we've got." It was unconventional, to say the least, but then again, so was I. "Alright, Mark, you've got yourself a deal," I said, shaking his hand, as if we were closing another business deal. That handshake sealed more than just our personal future, it felt like a new chapter for the business too. We moved into a sprawling house, the kind you see in magazines and think, no one actually lives like that. But we did, surrounded by luxury, our days filled with both love and the relentless pursuit of success. Life was good, better than I'd ever imagined. A year into our whirlwind of a life, the unexpected news dropped, I was pregnant. Over the moon, I was, bursting with a kind of joy you read about but never truly understand until it hits you. Mark, ever the strategist, laid out a new plan. "Cam, listen, this kid deserves all of you. How about you take a step back from the hustle? Just for a bit." His words hit me sideways. "Step back? And do what, Mark? Sit around talking to my belly?" He chuckled, that smooth operator. "Not just that. You'll prep for the MVP's arrival. It's temporary. I'll keep you in the loop on everything, promise." Something about the way he said it, with that calm certainty, made me cave. "Alright, but you better not turn my branch into a circus," I said, half joking, half serious. Mark took over the reins at the branch, and I embraced the pregnancy journey, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. The clinics became my second home, every visit, every checkup adding to the anxiety. 6 months down the line, moving around got tougher. My body wasn't mine anymore, and even driving felt like a marathon effort. "Guess it's just you and me, little one," I'd say, patting my belly, settling into this new, slower pace of life. But Mark, his hours got crazier. Nights at the office turned into routine, his voice over the phone always laced with exhaustion. "Babe, it's slammed here. Might have to pull another all-nighter." Worry not at me, but Mark had this way of smoothing over any concern. "Don't you stress, Cam. It's all for us, for our future. Just focus on you and the baby." I wanted to believe him, really did. But each "don't wait" up chipped away at something, leaving me tossing and turning, wondering if this was how it was supposed to be. One evening, as I sat alone, the house too big, too quiet, I dialed him up, needing to hear that reassurance. "Mark, this ain't easy, you know. Feels like I'm doing this solo." He was quick to soothe. "Cam, I'm doing what's gotta be done. Trust me, it'll all be worth it. You, me, and our little one, will have the world at our feet." I hung up, comforted yet unsettled. Mark's words were the balm to my worries, but deep down, a storm was brewing, one that whispered of change and challenged the promises of a shared future. One day I was lounging on the couch, flipping through a baby magazine, when the doorbell rang. Dragging myself up, I opened the door to find Alex, looking as serious as a judge. "Alex, what's the wind blowing you here for?" I greeted him, trying to keep the surprise out of my voice. "Needed to see you, Cam. We've got a situation," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invite. His face had that look, the one he gets when it's more than just family catch-up time. We settled in the living room, me with my feet up and him straight as a rod on the chair across. "Spit it out, then. What's up?" "It's the business, Cam. The numbers are looking grim. What's going on over there?" Alex's voice had that edge to it, the one he used when he meant business. I sighed, rubbing my belly absent-mindedly. "Mark's been handling things. Said it's all good." "Good? Cam, it's far from good. Sales are down, deliveries are a mess." "What's he been doing all this time?" Alex was getting worked up, his hands flying around as he spoke. I felt a pang of worry. "He told me he's got it under control. Said he's handling the big contracts himself." Alex leaned forward, his eyes boring into mine. "Look, I know you trust Mark, but something's off. We need to dig into this. You can't just sit back and watch." "All right, I'll talk to him. But you know how he is, always soothing things over," I replied, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. Alex stood up, ready to leave. "Don't let him smooth talk you, Cam. We've worked too hard to let everything slide because of whatever this is." He was out the door before I could muster a goodbye. Dinner felt more like a chess game that evening. Mark was his usual self, all smiles and stories about his day at the office. I, on the other hand, had a storm brewing in my head, thanks to what Alex had dropped on me earlier. "So, everything's smooth at the company?" I ventured, poking at my food more than eating it. "Income steady? No hiccups?" Mark barely looked up from his plate. "Yeah, all good. Smooth sailing. You know, I even threw our name into the hat for that Best Executives in the City contest. We're killing it, babe." His confidence was like a slap of cold water. "Really? That's great," I managed to say, my voice as dry as toast. Inside, my doubts were doing somersaults. Alex's words echoed in my head, painting a very different picture. Later, as Mark hummed some tune in the shower, I found myself dialing John, my former deputy. My heart was thumping loud enough to drown out the ringtone. "John, it's me," I said, the moment he picked up. "I need the real scoop. How are things at the office?" There was a pause long enough for me to regret calling. Then John's voice, hesitant. "Cameron, you really should see for yourself." "It's not. It's complicated." "Complicated how?" I pressed, feeling frustration bubble up. But John was a vault, only cracking enough to suggest I come in. Dragging myself out of bed felt like peeling away from my own shadow, thick and heavy with dread. Today wasn't just another day, it was the day I'd confront the mess at the office head-on. My hands trembled as I poured a cup of coffee, the black liquid mirroring the dark thoughts swirling in my head. "Morning, love." Mark's voice sliced through the silence of our kitchen, too cheerful, too oblivious. I forced a smile, my heart pounding against my chest like a drum. "Morning. Busy day ahead?" "Always, you know how it is. Big moves, big deals." He was full of it, puffing up like a rooster in a henhouse. I nodded, keeping my brewing storm hidden beneath a calm facade. I waited until Mark left the house, and then got into my car. The drive to the office was a blur. My grip on the steering wheel was tight, knuckles white as bone. The closer I got, the more the reality set in. This was it. The moment of truth. John was waiting for me, his face a map of worry lines. "Cameron," he greeted, his voice a low whisper, as if the walls themselves were eavesdropping. "John, let's not beat around the bush. I want everything, every misplaced penny, every shady deal. It's time to clean house," I said, steeling myself against the tide that was about to break. He nodded, leading me into my office. The room felt foreign, like stepping into a stranger's life. "It's bad, Cameron. Worse than we thought," he began, laying out the documents like a dealer at a crooked card game. As we pored over the numbers, the scale of the disaster unfolded. Mark's been playing fast and loose with the finances. And his team? A bunch of cronies clueless about our operations. "They're bleeding us dry." John's voice was thick with disgust. Anger bubbled up inside me, a volcano ready to erupt. "And the contracts? Tell me we haven't lost the Johnson account." John's silence was an answer louder than words. As the revelations about the company's state unfolded, John dropped another bombshell that cut deeper than the rest. "Mark's hardly ever here, Cameron. Matter of fact, he ain't here now," he said, his voice a mix of frustration and disbelief. That piece of information hit me like a freight train. My mind raced as I pulled out my phone, dialing Mark's number. He picked up after a couple of rings, his voice echoing through the speaker. "Hey, babe, what's up?" "Where are you?" I asked, my voice steady, despite the storm brewing inside me. "At the office, drowning in work. Where else would I be?" He sounded casual, too casual. After hanging up, I turned to John, my resolve hardening. "Don't mention this call to Mark. We play it cool until we figure out our next move." John nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "What's the plan, boss?" I took a deep breath, my mind working overtime. "First, we secure our contracts. I'll reach out to the buyers, ask for a postponement where needed. We need to buy some time." After several days of sleepless nights and endless worries, the morning sun brought a grim determination. Today was the day I'd face whatever demons were lurking in the shadows of my company, of my marriage. I had arranged to meet with the private investigator I hired, someone John recommended discreetly. I found myself in a nondescript coffee shop, the kind where secrets are traded over cups of bitter brew. The PI, a gruff man with eyes that had seen too much, slid a manila envelope across the table to me. "Everything you asked for is in there," he said, his voice gravelly, hinting at years of cigarettes and whiskey. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the envelope. "And?" I urged, needing to hear the words. "He's been unfaithful, in more ways than one," the PI said, not one to sugarcoat the pill. "Your husband's been playing house with someone from your company. Got the photos and everything." My heart sank, a mix of anger, betrayal, and an odd sense of vindication swirling inside. I had suspected, but hoping against hope I was wrong. "Show me," I demanded, my voice stronger than I felt. He laid out the photographs like a deck of cards, each one a stab to my heart. Mark, and there she was, one of our own employees, laughing, touching, sharing moments that were supposed to be mine alone. I fought back the urge to cry, to scream. Instead, I focused on the rage, letting it fuel me. "What else?" I asked, my eyes not leaving the damning evidence. "They've been careful, but not careful enough. Your husband's been funneling company funds too. Looks like they were planning a little getaway," the PI continued, his tone apologetic. That was the last straw. My company, my family's legacy, wasn't just a cash cow for Mark's little escapades. "Thanks," I said curtly, sliding the envelope back towards me. I threw down some cash for the coffee, more than necessary, my mind racing. Back in my car, I allowed myself a moment. Just one moment of weakness where the tears could fall, where I could mourn the loss of the life I thought I had. But as the tears dried, resolve took their place. Mark and his mistress had underestimated me. They thought they could use me, my company, as their playground. They were wrong. I dialed John, my voice calm but ice cold. I need you to call a staff meeting. Tomorrow morning. Everyone must attend. No exceptions. John, ever my rock, didn't ask why. Consider it done, Cameron. The drive home was a blur, my mind occupied with plans and schemes. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice, about righting the wrongs done to me, to my company. Mark greeted me with a smile when I got home, oblivious to the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Hey, babe, long day? I forced a smile, playing the part one last time. You could say that. Dinner smells great. We ate in silence, or rather, he talked about his day, and I nodded along, my responses automatic. The whole time, my mind was elsewhere, plotting, planning. In the cool, fluorescent light of the conference room, the air was thick with tension. I stood at the front, papers in hand, my belly prominent, a visual reminder of the personal stakes involved. John, my loyal deputy, had helped me organize this crucial meeting. The room was filled to the brim with staff, and there, amidst them, sat Mark and his mistress, their faces masks of feigned innocence. Let's get straight to the point, I began, my voice steady, despite the storm raging inside. Under Mark's leadership, this branch has faced unprecedented losses. Contracts with key partners have been breached, directly impacting our bottom line. I clicked the remote, and the graphs on the screen painted a damning picture, 7 months of steady decline. I looked directly at Mark, who squirmed under my gaze. As a result, drastic measures are necessary. Effective immediately, I am terminating the employment of those who've contributed to this downfall. The room fell silent, the gravity of my words sinking in. I continued, Mark, you're fired, for gross mismanagement and breach of trust. Then, turning slightly, I addressed his mistress. And you, for consistent absenteeism and complicity in this debacle. And also for the affair with my husband. Whispers filled the room as the mistress, her face a portrait of shock and shame, gathered her things and fled, her secret laid bare for all to see. Mark stood, his face an alarming shade of red. Cameron, you can't do this. Think about what you're doing. I met his plea with a cold stare. I have thought about it, Mark. At great length. This is the only course of action that protects the future of this company, and our child. As the meeting adjourned, staff members approached me, their expressions a mix of relief and gratitude. We're behind you, Cameron. It's good to have you back, they said, their support a balm to my frayed nerves. Mark tried to corner me as I was leaving the room. Cameron, please, let's talk about this. We can fix it. There's nothing left to discuss, Mark. You've made your choices, I replied, handing him the envelope I'd been clutching throughout the meeting. Inside were the divorce papers, already signed. His hands trembled as he took the envelope, the reality of his situation finally dawning on him. But, Cameron, No, Mark. It's over. You need to leave. Now. My voice was firm, brooking no argument. The dust had settled, the air was clear, and the wreckage of what once was lay bare before me. The company, my sanctuary, had been through a storm, but now it was time to rebuild, to restore what was lost. The morning after the revelation, I walked into the office with a different stride, one of determination and resolve. John was already there, paperwork spread out like a battle map. He looked up as I entered, a knowing nod passing between us. Morning, Cameron. Ready to start fresh? John's voice held a mix of encouragement and the weight of the tasks ahead. I set my bag down, rolling up my sleeves. Let's get to it. We've got a mountain to climb. The first order of business was damage control. We reached out to our clients, the ones who were on the brink of walking away. I took the lead, my tone earnest, apologetic yet hopeful. listen, I know we've dropped the ball. But I'm back in the saddle, and I'm here to make things right. I said over the phone to one of our largest clients, Mr. Thompson, not related, just a coincidence. He was hesitant, understandably so. Cameron, your company used to be top-notch. But what's happened recently? I cut in. I understand, and I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here to offer solutions. Give us a chance to prove that we're still the company you trusted. After what felt like an eternity, he sighed. All right, Cameron. We'll give you one more shot. Don't let us down. One by one, the conversations went on, each a delicate dance of negotiation and reassurance. The relief that followed each retained client was palpable, a balm to the open wounds of betrayal. John and I then turned our attention to the team. The office was quieter now, the air missing the familiar buzz of productivity. The employees that remained were uncertain, their faith shaken. I know you've all been through a lot. I addressed the gathered team, my voice echoing slightly in the half-empty office. And I can't undo what's been done. But I can promise you this, we're going to come back from this stronger than ever. Murmurs of agreement filled the room, a flicker of hope igniting in their eyes. We're going back to basics, focusing on what made us great. And it's going to take all of us, pulling together, to get there. I continued, my gaze meeting each of theirs. The team rallied, the sense of purpose rekindled. We dove into work, the days blurring into nights as we charted our course back to stability and growth. My baby boy, Lucas, became the new center of my universe the moment he arrived. Deciding to work remotely was the best decision for us both, keeping the balance between being a new mom and steering my company back to success. Alex, my rock through all this turmoil, started showing up more often. Not just for business, but to be there for me, for Lucas. Sis, you're not alone in this. We're a team, remember? He'd remind me every time he stepped through my door, groceries in one hand, toys for Lucas in the other. The divorce from Mark was a clean cut, much needed. The court didn't just grant me the divorce, they made sure Mark paid up for his deceit. Every penny he took from the company, every heartache he caused, he had to compensate. I'm sorry, Cameron. I truly am, he pleaded, trying to salvage whatever he could. But my mind was made up. Lucas needs a role model, not a reminder of betrayal, I told him, closing that chapter of my life for good. Adjusting to life as a single mom wasn't without its challenges, but with a nanny's help, I found a new rhythm. Working half-days meant I could dedicate my mornings to Lucas and my afternoons to the company. This balance brought a sense of peace and purpose I hadn't felt in a long time. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. I learned that the hard way. John, we're tightening the ship. No more blind faith, I told my deputy over one of our many video calls. Every decision runs through me, clear? Crystal, Cameron. You've got this, John assured me, his loyalty never wavering. The company wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, growing in ways I hadn't imagined possible in the wake of such betrayal. As the seasons changed, so did the chapter of my life. Sitting in the office that once felt like a battleground, it was now a place of peace, growth, and new beginnings. The latest gossip around the water cooler wasn't about market shares or business deals, but rather the poetic justice life had served my ex-husband's mistress. Abandoned and divorced, her tale was a stark reminder of karma's long memory. The phone buzzed occasionally, Mark's name flashing on the screen, each call more desperate than the last, seeking forgiveness or perhaps a way back into the life he'd betrayed. With each attempt, my resolve only strengthened, culminating in the moment I hit block, severing the last tie to a past best left behind. Lucas, with his boundless energy and laughter, filled the apartment with a light so bright it overshadowed any remnants of darkness from those tumultuous times. Each day with him was a gift, a new adventure, a chance to shape a future defined by love, integrity, and the lessons learned from the hardships we'd faced. Alex dropped by more often, each visit bringing not just his presence, but a reinforcement of the bond we shared, a bond that had weathered storms and emerged unbreakable. You're doing amazing, sis. This little guy is lucky to have you. he'd say, ruffling Lucas's hair, earning a giggle in response. Yeah, we're doing just fine, aren't we, buddy? I'd respond, looking down at Lucas with a heart so full it felt like it might burst. The business was not just surviving, it was thriving. With Alex and John at my side, we navigated the challenges with a newfound determination, turning obstacles into opportunities for growth. As I watched my son sleep, the quiet of the night enveloping us, I whispered a promise into the darkness, a vow to always move forward, to face each day with courage, and to never lose sight of the joy and love that now filled my life. I'm Lucy, and if you'd told me at 22 that my life would be a whirlwind of silent battles and unspoken words, I would have laughed it off. But here I am, at 34, living a story far removed from the dreams I once had. It all began at a friend's birthday party, fresh out of college, with a heart full of dreams. That's where I met Tom. He had the kind of smile that could stop you in your tracks and a laugh that made you feel like you were in on the world's best joke. Never thought I'd meet someone who could beat me at Mario Kart, he said, his eyes twinkling with mischief as he handed me a controller. I laughed, taking up the challenge. Prepare to be amazed. I'm the reigning champ of college dorm tournaments. We clicked instantly, our banter as easy as breathing. It wasn't long before our families became one big, happy unit. Tom's parents, Mike and Sarah, welcomed me with open arms, their warmth enveloping me like a cherished family heirloom. After we got married, life's script took an unexpected turn. Tom and Sarah were old school in their thinking. A woman's true calling is at home, Sarah would often say, her voice gentle, but firm. I had other plans for my life, career goals I wanted to achieve. But love, I reasoned, was about compromise. So, I traded my ambitions for a domestic life, telling myself it was just another kind of adventure. Then Emma came into our lives, a bundle of joy that I thought would complete our family picture. But Tom's reaction to our baby girl planted the first seed of doubt in our perfect garden. I always imagined having a son to carry on the family name, he said, looking down at Emma with a distant gaze that didn't match the situation. I felt a twinge in my heart but masked it with optimism. Next time, we'll have your boy, I replied, hoping to bridge the gap his words had created. However, life had other plans. My health took a turn, shutting the door on any future pregnancies. The disappointment in Tom's eyes was palpable, an unspoken barrier that started to rise between him and Emma. As the years passed, Emma blossomed into a spirited, independent girl, wise beyond her 7 years. She found joy in cooking, her little hands creating dishes that would surprise and delight Mike and Sarah. "Grandma, Grandpa, try the cookies I made," she'd say, her face alight with pride. "Delicious, sweetheart. You're going to be a famous chef one day," Mike would exclaim, his eyes gleaming with pride. But Tom's reactions were lukewarm, at best. He'd nod, murmur a half-hearted nice, and go back to his world, a world that seemed to have no room for Emma. One evening, as I was tucking her into bed, her voice trembled with a question that shattered my heart. "Mommy, why doesn't Daddy like my cooking? Why doesn't he love me?" I took a deep breath, my mind racing for the right words. "Honey, Daddy does love you. He has a different way of showing it. It's not your fault, okay? You are amazing, and don't you ever forget that." But even as I said the words, a nagging voice in the back of my mind whispered doubts. Was it really just about showing love, or was there something deeper, a chasm we couldn't see but only feel? The clock's hands seemed to move slower each evening, the tick-tock a loud reminder of the growing void in our home. Tom's late returns had become the norm, his presence more like a shadow than the partner I once knew. The house, once filled with laughter and shared dreams, now echoed with the silence of our unspoken tensions. One chilly evening, as I heard the familiar jingle of Tom's keys at the door, something inside me snapped. The frustration and loneliness I had bottled up for so long demanded to be heard. "Tom, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady, but my hands trembling. What we're doing, it's not living. You're never here, and when you are, it's like you're a million miles away." He sighed, a sound of annoyance more than exhaustion. "Lucy, not this again. I'm out there, every day, grinding away for this family. Can't you just be grateful for that?" His words stung, a harsh reminder of the chasm that had formed between us. Grateful? For a husband who's more a ghost than a partner? For a father who's just a name to his own daughter? I shot back, the hurt spilling over. Tom's face hardened, his eyes cold and distant. "You wouldn't last a day in my shoes, Lucy. You sit at home, in your little bubble, while I deal with the real world. Don't lecture me about being a partner or a father." I bit my lip, fighting back the tears. This wasn't the man I married, this angry stranger who wore Tom's face. I wanted to scream, to shatter the icy calm that had enveloped him, but fear and the need to protect Emma from more hurt kept me silent. The distance between us grew, a silent gulf filled with the things we didn't say and the love that had once bound us. Tom's move to the spare room was the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. Our bed, which had once been a haven, now felt like an empty stage after the final act, the audience long gone. In the midst of this growing void, Emma became the only light. Her success at school, her sharp mind, and joyful heart were my anchors in a sea of uncertainty. "You're incredible, Emma," I told her, my voice thick with pride. "You deserve something special." The smartphone was more than a gift, it was a lifeline, a connection to a world that was still bright and full of possibilities. Emma's delight at the present was a balm to my weary heart. "This is awesome, Mom. Look at all the stuff I can do," she exclaimed, her fingers flying over the screen, her laughter a melody in our muted home. I smiled, but my heart was heavy with a secret. "Just remember, sweetheart, this is our little secret." "Dad, well, you know how he feels about these things," I cautioned, hating the deception but fearing Tom's unpredictable temper more. Emma's eyes met mine, a mirror of understanding far beyond her years. "I won't tell him, Mom. I promise," she said, her small hand squeezing mine in a silent pact. The idea of Tom taking Emma on a camping trip hit me out of the blue. It was a sunny Saturday morning when he brought it up, the kitchen filled with the smell of pancakes and coffee. "Emma, how about you and I hit the mountains next weekend? Just the two of us, a father-daughter adventure," Tom announced, his tone surprisingly cheerful. Emma's face lit up like it was Christmas morning. "Really, Daddy? Just you and me?" she asked, her voice trembling with excitement. I watched the scene unfold, a knot of worry forming in my stomach. Tom and outdoor activities were as likely a pair as oil and water. "Are you sure that's a good idea, Tom? You know the mountains can be unpredictable this time of year," I said, trying to keep my voice light. Tom shot me a look, his eyes briefly flashing annoyance, before settling back into a forced smile. "Lucy, I know what I'm doing. It'll be good for Emma and me to spend some quality time together." I turned to Emma, who was practically bouncing in her seat. "Sweetheart, it sounds like an adventure, but you have to promise to be careful, okay?" Emma nodded vigorously, her smile wide and genuine. "I promise, Mom. And Daddy knows everything about camping, right, Dad?" Tom ruffled her hair, his response a little too casual. "Of course, kiddo. Your old man's got a few tricks up his sleeve." The rest of the week passed in a blur. Tom seemed more engaged, discussing camping gear and trails with a level of enthusiasm I hadn't seen in years. But as the departure day drew closer, my anxiety grew. The mountains were beautiful, but unforgiving, and the thought of Emma in that vast wilderness tugged at every maternal instinct I had. The morning they left, I packed Emma's bag with extra care, double-checking her warm clothes and first aid kit. "You sure you've got everything, Tom? Map, compass, emergency contacts?" I asked, my voice barely hiding my concern. Tom nodded, a backpack slung over one shoulder. "Lucy, relax. We'll be fine. It's just a couple of nights. What could possibly go wrong?" His words, meant to reassure, only heightened my unease. I hugged Emma tightly, whispering reminders and I love yous into her ear. Mom, I'll be okay. I'm a big girl now, remember? Emma said, her bravery a stark contrast to the fear in my heart. I know, baby. Just, take care of each other, okay? I replied, forcing a smile as I watched them drive off. The house felt empty without Emma's laughter and endless chatter. I busied myself with chores, but my mind was in the mountains, trailing behind my daughter and the husband who felt like a stranger. The door creaked open, and the sight of Tom standing there alone, his face ashen and eyes hollow, sent a chill down my spine. My heart skipped a beat, my mind racing with the worst possibilities. Tom, where's Emma? I asked, my voice quivering, trying to steady myself against the kitchen counter. He stumbled into the living room, his words jumbled, his hands shaking. Lucy, I lost her. In the mountains. We were hiking, and she's gone. I felt the ground beneath me give way. What do you mean, gone? I demanded, my voice rising in panic. Tom, how could you lose her? She's just a child. His face crumpled, the weight of his guilt and fear written all over it. I turned away for just a second, I swear. When I looked back, she wasn't there anymore. I searched, I called out. Lucy, I did everything I could. Anger and terror surged through me, a torrent of emotions I couldn't contain. And you just came back? Without her? Why didn't you call the police, the rangers? Anyone? He sank into a chair, his hands covering his face. I was scared. Scared they'd blame me, think I'm a bad father. I didn't know what to do. Without another word, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. My hands were trembling, but my voice was surprisingly calm as I reported Emma missing. Every second felt like an eternity, each tick of the clock a sharp reminder of the nightmare we were living. Soon, our quiet home was filled with the sound of sirens and the urgency of police officers. Tom's parents, Mike and Sarah, arrived, their faces etched with worry and disbelief. Lucy, what happened? Where's our little Emma? Sarah asked, her voice trembling as she reached out for me. I shook my head, the tears finally breaking through my carefully held composure. She's lost, Sarah. Lost in the mountains because he wasn't careful enough. Mike wrapped his arm around Sarah, his gaze fixed on Tom with a mix of confusion and anger. Son, tell us this isn't true. Tell us you know where your daughter is. Tom looked up, his eyes red and his voice barely a whisper. Dad, I messed up. I don't know where she is. I don't know how to fix this. The room was thick with tension, the air heavy with unspoken accusations and fear. As the police began their questions, organizing search teams and gathering details, I felt a numbness settle over me. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. But as the night wore on, with no news and the darkness outside mirroring the despair within, the harsh reality settled in. My little girl, my Emma, was out there alone, in the vast, unforgiving wilderness. As the search for Emma dragged on, the house felt like it was closing in on me. Every second was a sharp jab to my heart, every minute an endless stretch of worry. And Tom, he was there, but not really. His eyes glued to his phone, fingers tapping away. It was like he wasn't even in the same world of panic and fear that was swallowing me whole. Tom, what are you doing? Our daughter is out there, and you're just texting? I snapped, frustration boiling over. He didn't even look up. It's work, Lucy. It doesn't stop just because of this, he mumbled, his words like a slap to my already raw nerves. Work? At a time like this? It didn't sit right. But then it hit me. Emma's phone, the one I gave her, the one we kept a secret. It had GPS. Emma's phone. She has it with her. We can track her. I exclaimed, a flicker of hope cutting through the dense fog of despair. Mike and Sarah perked up, their worn-out faces showing the first signs of hope since the nightmare began. That's brilliant, Lucy. Call her, see if she answers, Mike said, his voice a mix of hope and urgency. I dialed Emma's number, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear the ring. But there was no answer. She didn't pick up. I tried again, and again, nothing but the cold, impersonal ringing. Panic surged again, but then I remembered the GPS. I relayed the details to the police, every part of me trembling with a cocktail of fear and hope. And then, after the longest hour of my life, a miracle. The search team, they found her. They brought my baby back, alive and unharmed, her little face calm, despite the ordeal she'd been through. I broke down, holding her so tight I feared I might never let go. Emma, baby, why didn't you answer your phone? We were so worried, I sobbed, the relief overwhelming every other emotion. She looked up at me, her eyes wise beyond her years. I was saving the battery, Mommy. In case it took longer to find me. I knew the GPS would bring you to me. Her smart thinking, her calmness in the face of danger, it was beyond anything I could have imagined. She was her own little hero. Mike and Sarah hugged us both, their relief palpable. You're one brave girl, Emma. You made it through, Mike said, his voice thick with emotion. And Sarah, her eyes wet with tears, added, You're our little miracle, Emma. We're so blessed to have you back. But amidst the joy and relief, I couldn't help but glance at Tom. His reaction, it wasn't right. It wasn't the overwhelming relief or the desperate joy of a parent who found their lost child. It was something else, something that didn't fit the picture. Before I could think of that thought, Emma, her small frame still trembling from the night's events, looked at her father and said something that stopped us all in our tracks. Daddy left me there on purpose. The room went silent, the air thick with the weight of her words. Tom let out a nervous laugh, but it sounded hollow, forced. What are you talking about, Emma? That's a serious accusation. I looked at Emma, my heart pounding. Honey, what do you mean? Tell us everything. Emma's gaze was steady, her voice firm, despite the fear that lingered in her eyes. I heard Daddy on the phone. He was talking to someone about getting rid of me. The world seemed to spin, each word from Emma's lips a sledgehammer to the life I thought I knew. Mike and Sarah looked at their son, their faces a mix of horror and disbelief. Tom, tell me this isn't true. Tell me our granddaughter is mistaken, Mike said, his voice a low growl of a father protecting his cub. Tom's face was pale, his usual composure shattered. Dad, I can explain. But before he could spin his web of lies, Emma took out her smartphone, her small fingers deft with certainty. I recorded it. I was scared, and I didn't know what else to do. The recording was clear, Tom's voice discussing a chilling plan with a cold detachment that made my blood run cold. My world, once filled with love and trust, was crumbling around me, each word from the recording a painful blow. Sarah was sobbing, her hands covering her face. Mike stood, his body rigid with fury. How could you, Tom? She's your flesh and blood. Tom fell to his knees, his mask of indifference finally crumbling. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. It was all her idea, he pleaded, but his words were like ash, meaningless and cold. The police arrived, their blue lights painting the night with flickers of justice. As they led Tom away, his pleas and excuses fading into the night, I held Emma close, her bravery and quick thinking a stark contrast to the cowardice of her father. The interrogation room at the police station was a cold, uninviting space, its stark walls echoing the chilling confessions that unfolded within. I sat there, a silent observer, as the detective methodically unraveled the tangled web of lies and deceit that Tom had woven. So, let me get this straight, Mr. Wilson. The detective's voice was stern, unyielding. You conspired with your mistress to abandon your daughter, hoping that she would freeze or that wild animals would find her. Tom's face was pale, his usual confident demeanor replaced by a look of desperation. It wasn't like that. I mean, yes, but it was her idea. She said it was the only way we could be together, without the complications. Complications? The detective raised an eyebrow. You mean your daughter, your own flesh and blood? You mean alimony? Tom shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his gaze darting around the room as if looking for an escape. She's pregnant, she's going to have a boy. I just wanted a fresh start. I didn't think it would go this far. I felt a surge of anger, each word from Tom's mouth a testament to his betrayal. How could the man I once loved, the father of my child, be capable of such heartless cruelty? The detective leaned in, his eyes fixed on Tom. Your plan failed, Mr. Wilson. Your daughter survived, thanks to her own resourcefulness and a smartphone with GPS. What do you have to say about that? Tom's silence was deafening. The reality of his actions, the enormity of his betrayal, was finally sinking in. The days that followed were a blur of legal proceedings and emotional upheaval. In the courtroom, as the judge delivered the verdict, a sense of surreal calm enveloped me. Tom and his mistress were sentenced to prison, their futures a bleak canvas of regret and retribution. In addition, the judge ordered Tom to pay a substantial sum for his unforgivable betrayal and mandated alimony to support Emma. Outside the courtroom, the sky was an endless expanse of gray, mirroring the storm of emotions within me. Mike and Sarah approached, their faces etched with pain and disbelief. Lucy, we can't begin to express our sorrow. Mike's voice trembled with emotion. We raised Tom to be a better man than this. We're here for you and Emma, whatever you need. Sarah's eyes, red from crying, met mine. Lucy, we're so sorry. If we had any idea. Please, let us help make this right. I nodded, the weight of their words heavy on my heart. Thank you. Your support means everything. But right now, it's Emma who needs us the most. We need to show her that, despite everything, she's not alone. As we left the courthouse, the world seemed to move in slow motion, each step a tentative move towards an uncertain future. Emma's hand in mine was a silent vow of strength and unity, a promise that no darkness could ever overshadow the bond we shared. The days after the trial were like walking through a fog, each step uncertain but forward-moving. The house that once echoed with Tom's presence now felt strangely peaceful, the turmoil he'd brought with it gone. One morning, as Emma and I sat at the kitchen table, the sun casting a warm glow through the window, she looked up at me, her eyes reflecting a wisdom far beyond her years. Mom, are we going to be okay? She asked, her small hand reaching across the table to mine. I squeezed her hand, feeling the strength that flowed between us. Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be more than okay. We have each other, and that's all that matters. Emma smiled, a hint of the carefree child she once was peeking through. I miss Grandpa Mike and Grandma Sarah. Do you think they're sad too? The mention of Mike and Sarah tugged at my heart. I'm sure they are, honey. But they love us, and they're there for us. Maybe we should visit them soon, what do you think? Emma's face lit up, the idea of seeing her grandparents bringing a spark of joy. Yes, let's do that. Grandpa always makes me laugh, and Grandma's hugs are the best. The sound of laughter and chatter soon filled the house, a stark contrast to the silence that had preceded it. As we prepared for our visit, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey we'd been through. Mom, will things ever be like before? Emma asked, a hint of uncertainty in her voice as she packed her little backpack. I knelt down, meeting her gaze. No, sweetie, it won't be like before. But that's okay. We're starting a new chapter, just you and me. And sometimes, new beginnings are even better than what we leave behind. Emma nodded, her understanding far beyond her years. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. More than anything in the world, I replied, hugging her tight. As we drove to Mike and Sarah's, the familiar streets seemed to hold a new promise. The door opened even before we could knock, Mike and Sarah standing there, their arms open, ready to envelop us in their warmth. Lucy, Emma, come here, my darlings, Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion as she pulled us into a tight embrace. Mike ruffled Emma's hair, a smile breaking through his usual stoic demeanor. "You're one tough cookie, kiddo. Just like your mom." The day passed in a blur of shared stories, laughter, and the occasional tear. It was healing, a balm to the wounds that were slowly turning into scars. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, I knew that the road ahead would have its bumps and turns. But with Emma by my side, and the love and support of family, each step would be a move towards a future filled with hope and new possibilities. "Mom, look at the sunset. It's like the sky is celebrating with us," Emma exclaimed, her face aglow with the fading light. I looked at the sunset, then at Emma, and I knew she was right. This wasn't just a new dawn for us. It was a celebration, a testament to our strength, our resilience, and the unbreakable bond that no darkness could ever overshadow. Hello everyone. Name's Mia, 33, single, was at the time, and a cosmetologist with a knack for turning a plain Jane into a head-turner. But this ain't about my day job, it's about how Alex strolled into my life. It all kicked off on a Thursday, your typical uneventful day, until Lily, my bestie since the sandbox days, hit me up with one of her bright ideas. "Mia, you gotta meet this guy," she said, all buzzing with excitement. "He's perfect for you." Now, Lily's idea of perfect and mine hadn't always lined up. Remember the vegan dude who owned a butcher shop? But she was adamant. "Lil, I'm not in the mood for another fix-up flop," I shot back, but she wasn't having any of it. "Trust me, Mia. Alex is different. Y'all will hit it off like a house on fire," she persisted, her voice a mix of hope and that annoying I know better tone. "Fine," I relented, "but if this goes south, you're buying me drinks for a month." Fast forward to Friday night, and there I was at this cozy little dive bar downtown, the kind with dim lighting and a jukebox stuck in the 80s. In walks Alex. First thing I noticed? The dude had a smile that could light up the room and a confidence that said he wasn't just any regular Joe. He spotted me and made his way over, that smile never wavering. "Mia? I'm Alex. It's awesome to finally meet you," he said, his voice smooth, extending his hand. I shook it, feeling a weird jolt of something. "Hey, Alex. Lily's told me, a lot about you." We got to talking, and damn, Lily might have actually gotten it right this time. Alex was funny in a dry, hit you when you least expect it kind of way, and he had stories that could keep you hooked for hours. Not to mention, the guy had a way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. As the night wore on, the initial awkwardness melted away like ice cream on a hot sidewalk. We laughed, we bickered in a playful way, and we shared bits and pieces of our lives. He was into marketing, but not the boring kind, as he put it. Wanted to start his own thing someday. Ambitious, I liked that. Lily wasn't kidding, huh? "You really are something," he said at one point, his gaze a mix of admiration and something else I couldn't quite place. "Oh, please," I scoffed, trying to play it cool. "I'm just a girl who knows her way around a makeup bag." "Nah, it's more than that. You've got this energy. It's infectious," he countered, his eyes locked on mine. The night ended with us exchanging numbers, and that promise of "let's do this again sometime." Walking back to my car, I couldn't help but feel like maybe, just maybe, this wasn't gonna be another one for the disaster column. Alex had sparked something, a flicker of hope in my all but given up on love heart. I got home, tossed my keys on the kitchen counter, and found myself grinning like an idiot. I grabbed my phone and shot Lily a text. "You might not be buying me drinks after all." After the buzz of that first night with Alex, things picked up speed faster than I ever imagined. Before I knew it, we were deep in that lovey-dovey phase where everything's roses, and you can't see any flaws in the other person. It's like you're wearing these rose-colored glasses, and even if someone told you they were tinted, you'd swear you were seeing clear as day. One day, out of the blue, while we were lounging around at my place, Alex popped a question that wasn't the question, but it was big enough to get the wheels turning. "Mia, have you ever thought about us, like, really doing this? Like, getting a place together, making things official? I nearly choked on my coffee. Official, huh? Like, going to the city hall and signing papers official or what? He laughed, that easy sound that always made me feel lighter. Yeah, something like that. I mean, I know we haven't been at this for a super long time, but when you know, right? I gotta admit, part of me was screaming. Slow down, girl. But another, louder part was all in, ready to dive headfirst into whatever this was with Alex. So, we started talking about it. Really talking. Not just the fluffy, surface-level stuff, but the nitty-gritty of what our future could look like. And that's when the topic of a prenup came up. Not from him, though. It was my mom who brought it down on us, like a ton of bricks one Sunday lunch. Mia, darling, I know you're head over heels and all that, but you need to think about this seriously. You've worked hard for what you have. A prenup is just common sense, she said, passing me the salad like she hadn't just dropped a bombshell on our roast chicken dinner. Alex nearly spit out his water. A prenup? Mrs. C, I don't want Mia's money. That's not what this is about. Mom raised an eyebrow, a look I knew all too well meant business. It's not about wanting or not wanting, Alex. It's about protecting what each of you brings to this partnership. It's practical, is all. The ride back to our place was a mix of silence and awkward coughs. Finally, I broke it. Look, Alex, she's not wrong. It's not about trust, really. It's more like insurance, for both of us. He took a while, but then, yeah, I get it. It makes sense. Let's do it, if it'll make everyone chill. So, we got that prenup sorted. It was about as romantic as doing your taxes, but it felt like the responsible thing to do. With that out of the way, we started hunting for our dream home. And by dream, I mean something we could afford without selling a kidney. It took months, but we finally found it. A fixer-upper that had potential written all over it. Or maybe that was just the real estate agent trying to make a sale. Either way, we fell for it. Hard. Babe, this is it. I can feel it. We can tear down that ugly wall, open up the kitchen. It's gonna be epic, Alex said, his eyes lighting up as he talked about knocking down walls and ripping out carpets. I wasn't as handy, but his enthusiasm was contagious. Yeah, and maybe we can finally get that dog you've been yapping about. But, after all the dust settles. He wrapped an arm around me, pulling me close as we stood in what could potentially be our living room. It's gonna be a lot of work, but we can do it. Together. Together, I echoed, not fully grasping just how much of an adventure we were embarking on. And so, we took the plunge. Bought the house, signed what felt like a million papers, and started dreaming of paint colors and furniture placements. It was exciting and terrifying all rolled into one. That's when Alex dropped the bomb. Babe, I've been thinking. I'm gonna quit my job to oversee the renovations full-time. You're killing it at work, and let's be honest, these contractors need someone to keep them in line, or they'll walk all over us. I nearly dropped the paint swatch I was holding. Quit your job? Alex, that's a huge decision. Don't you think you should have talked to me about it first? He shrugged, a bit too casually for my liking. I thought it'd be a surprise. Plus, it'll speed things up. We both want to move in ASAP, right? And don't worry, once the house is all set, I'll jump back into the job market. Promise. I was torn between being touched by his commitment and being frustrated at his unilateral decision-making. Alex, it's not just about speeding things up. We're a team, remember? Big decisions, we make them together. He nodded, suddenly looking more serious. You're right, Mia. I should have talked to you first. I just want to make our dream home perfect for us. But yeah, I promise, after this, I'll get back on the job wagon. The paint had barely dried on the walls of our not-so-humble abode by the time Alex was itching to throw a housewarming party. Gotta show off the fruits of our labor, he'd say, winking at me as he pictured the bash. I wasn't exactly on board at first, felt like our place was still a canvas a few brush strokes shy of a masterpiece. But Alex, with his never-ending well of optimism, was all in. So, we sent out the invites, including one to Lily and her husband, Jack, who had been my rock through more than a couple of rough patches. The day rolled around faster than I would have liked, and our living room was soon buzzing with the chatter and laughter of our closest friends, all eager to toast to our new beginning. Alex was in his element, charming the socks off everyone as he led tours of the house like some kind of real estate prodigy. And here, we knocked down a wall to create an open-concept living area. Really opens the place up, don't you think? He'd gesture broadly, a proud grin plastered on his face. I was mingling, doing my best to play the gracious host, when I caught Lily's eye. She sidled up to me, a mischievous glint in her gaze. "Girl, you snagged yourself a real handyman, huh? Alex is all anyone can talk about. Jack's turning green over here." I laughed, shaking my head. Please, half the time, I was worried he'd knock down a load-bearing wall and bring the whole house down on us. That's when Jack joined us, his brow furrowed in a mock scowl. "Seriously, Alex is making me look bad. What's next? He's gonna build you to a castle." Lily nudged him, her laughter light and easy. "Oh, hush. I was just teasing. Though, Mia, your man's got a real knack for this stuff." I couldn't help but feel a twinge of awkwardness at the praise. Sure, Alex had put in the work, but it wasn't like I'd been sitting on the sidelines. And yet, here he was, soaking up all the glory as if he'd single-handedly transformed our fixer-upper into a palace. I brushed the feeling aside, attributing it to the stress of playing host. The party eventually wound down, and as the last guests trickled out, I found myself slumped on the couch, mentally and physically exhausted. Alex plopped down next to me, a satisfied sigh escaping his lips. "What a night, huh? Everyone loved the house." "We did good, babe." I turned to him, a forced smile on my face. "Yeah, we did. Though, from the sound of it, you were the mastermind behind it all." He blinked, taken aback. "Hey, I was just proud of what we've accomplished. Didn't mean to make it seem like it was all me." I wanted to believe him, to brush off the nagging doubt and revel in the success of our housewarming. But something about the evening had shifted my perspective, a subtle reminder that in this partnership, our contributions might not always be viewed through the same lens. "Next time, just make sure you mention the we part a bit more, yeah?" I said, half joking, half serious. Alex nodded, wrapping an arm around me. "Of course, babe. It's you and me against the world, remember?" As the days turned into weeks and then months, it seemed like Alex's job hunt was on permanent pause. Our life had settled into a routine, but not the kind you'd hope for. He'd sleep in late, kill time on the computer, or hang out with friends while I was grinding away at the salon. Every now and then, if I made a comment about his laid-back lifestyle, he'd throw together dinner, like that was enough to balance the scales. Meanwhile, I was busting my tail, dreaming bigger. I had this vision of opening my own beauty salon. It wasn't just a dream, I had plans, ideas. I wanted it bad. So, I brought it up to Alex one evening, thinking maybe he'd see the spark in my eye and get on board. His reaction was like a bucket of cold water. "A salon, Mia? You know we can't afford to gamble right now. Your job's stable. Why risk it?" I stared at him, disbelief mixing with frustration. "Gamble? Alex, when did you become so cautious? We've talked about this. It's my dream." He shrugged, a gesture that sent my blood boiling. "Dreams are great, babe, but the repairs on the house went over. We're tight as it is." That was the last straw. I pulled up our bank statements, my heart sinking as I saw the numbers, or, more accurately, the lack thereof. Our account was bleeding out, and here he was, acting like it was just a scratch. "Alex, look at this. Where did it all go? We're running on fumes here." My voice was sharper than I intended, but I was past caring. He had the decency to look sheepish, but it wasn't enough. I know. The repairs, they just added up. I didn't realize until it was too late. I was fuming. Added up? That's it? We need money, Alex. Real money. You need to get a job. Like, yesterday. Alex bristled, defensive. You think I'm not trying? Jobs aren't just falling out of the sky, Mia. Alex, when you said you'd look for a job, did that just mean browsing listings on your phone and then forgetting about it? My patience had evaporated, leaving raw frustration in its wake. The conversation ended with him promising, again, to get serious about job hunting. But promises were cheap, and our bank account wasn't getting any fuller. I couldn't wait around for him to get his act together, so I did what I had to do. I picked up a part-time gig at another cosmetology clinic, squeezing in hours before and after my regular job. Life has this funny way of throwing curveballs just when you think you've got the batting down pat. My routine was a well-oiled machine, work, more work, and the occasional dream-filled brainstorming session about my future salon. That is until something, or rather, someone, threw a wrench in the works. It was a regular Tuesday, or as regular as any could be in my whirlwind of a life, when I bumped into Lily downtown. She was all dolled up, sporting a brand new, eye-wateringly expensive handbag that screamed luxury from a mile away. Lily, that's a pretty fancy bag you got there, I commented, half in awe, half curious. New? Lily glanced down at her bag like she'd forgotten it was there. Oh, this old thing? Yeah, it was a gift from Jack, she said, her voice a tad too casual. Now, I knew Jack. He was more the beer and a burger type, not the splurge on designer handbags type. Something didn't add up. Really? Jack bought you that? Looks pricier than his usual taste. She shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Well, you know, he wanted to surprise me. Said I deserved it. I nodded, but my mind was racing. Jack and Lily had been on rocky ground lately, a fancy bag out of the blue didn't fit the picture. I filed the inconsistency away for later and carried on with my day, but Lily's new accessory nagged at me like a splinter. Days passed, and the splinter only burrowed deeper. Alex's routine hadn't changed, still jobless, still seemingly content. But now, I was watching more closely, noticing things I hadn't before. Like how he'd become jumpy when I asked about his day, or the way he'd quickly close his laptop whenever I walked by. Then came the bombshell that blew my suspicions wide open. Checking our joint account online, I noticed several charges that made my heart sink. Jewelry stores, high-end boutiques, places I knew for a fact I hadn't shopped at. And there, nestled among the damning evidence, was a charge from the very brand of Lily's new handbag. My head was spinning. It couldn't be. Could it? Alex, my Alex, and Lily? No, it was too crazy. But the numbers didn't lie. That evening, I confronted Alex, my voice shaking but determined. Alex, I need to ask you something, and I want the truth. Have you been buying things? Expensive things? He looked at me, confusion written all over his face. Things? What kind of things? Jewelry, clothes, handbags, for someone else? I pressed, holding his gaze. His reaction was immediate and telling. He stuttered, his face going pale. Mia, I don't know what you're talking about. Why would you even think that? I could show him the lines from our joint account online, but I didn't do it. First, I had to get to the bottom of what was happening. I needed answers, solid proof of what was happening right under my nose. That's when I cooked up a plan straight out of a detective novel. I'm heading to a cosmetology conference next week. I lied to Alex, watching his reaction closely. It's a big opportunity for networking, you know? Alex, ever the supportive husband on the surface, nodded. That's great, babe. You'll knock 'em dead. His words stung, laced with irony, given the circumstances. I packed my bags, making a show of preparing for my trip, all while my actual plan simmered in the back of my mind. The day came and I left, but instead of heading to the airport, I drove to a nearby hotel and checked in under a pseudonym. It felt like something out of a spy movie, except the ache in my heart was all too real. I spent a day in limbo, waiting, thinking, before I decided it was time to put my plan into action. Late in the evening, I drove back to our neighborhood, parking a block away to avoid detection. The walk to our house was surreal, each step heavy with the weight of my impending discovery. Lily's car parked outside was the first confirmation of my suspicions. I let myself in quietly, the familiar creak of the door now sounding like a trumpet announcing my arrival. The scene before me was as cliché as it was devastating. Alex and Lily, cozy and laughing over a bottle of wine, their intimacy a gut punch I hadn't been prepared for. Shaking with a mix of anger and determination, I pulled out my phone and began to record. The scene of Alex and Lily, so cozy together in our bed, would serve as undeniable proof of his infidelity. With the evidence secured, I couldn't hold back any longer. Really, Alex? Lily? This is what's been going on? I burst out, stepping into the light, my presence startling them. Alex jumped up, his face a mask of guilt and surprise. Mia, what, how? Lily, ever the cool one, just shrugged, though her eyes couldn't hide the panic. Mia, darling, this isn't what it looks like. I laughed, a sound bitter and cold. Isn't it? Because it looks exactly like my husband and my best friend stabbing me in the back. Alex tried to approach me, his hands outstretched as if he could wipe away the betrayal with a touch. Mia, please, let me explain. I stepped back, my resolve hardening. Save it, Alex. I've seen enough. And you? I turned to Lily. You're a real piece of work. Enjoy the bag? The silence that followed was deafening. Alex's excuses fell on deaf ears, and Lily's attempts at justification only fueled my resolve to end this farce once and for all. After the dust settled from the betrayal, I didn't waste any time mourning over spilled secrets. I hit the ground running, lawyer on speed dial, ready to untangle the mess Alex had left behind. The prenup my mom had practically arm-twisted me into signing was about to pay off in ways I hadn't even imagined. So, we're clear on the terms, right? I asked my lawyer over the phone. He can't touch the house or any of my earnings. The prenup's tight on that. Absolutely, my lawyer assured me, his voice a beacon of confidence in the murky waters of divorce proceedings. The agreement is ironclad. Plus, with the evidence of infidelity, we're on solid ground. Filing for divorce felt like ripping off a band-aid. Painful, but necessary. And with the prenup shielding me, I went for the jugular. Not only did I keep the house, but I also slapped Alex with a demand for financial compensation for his little escapade. The court didn't blink before siding with me. Turns out, betrayal comes with a price tag, and Alex was about to foot the bill. But I didn't stop there. Lily, the so-called friend who'd played me for a fool, found herself in the crosshairs next. I had receipts, literal and metaphorical, showing every penny Alex had blown on her with my hard-earned cash. So, I demanded restitution. The look on her face when she got served was worth every penny I spent on legal fees. In the end, Lily had to cough up an impressive sum, a small consolation for the trust she'd trampled on. Meanwhile, her husband, Jack, got wind of the whole sordid affair. He filed for divorce quicker than you could say adultery, leaving Lily to stew in the mess she'd made. When Lily tried to pin the collapse of her marriage on me, I couldn't help but laugh. Honey, if you're looking for the person who wrecked your life, grab a mirror. Months have flown by since the whole divorce drama unfolded. Life's got a funny way of moving on, even when you think it's gonna be stuck in the mud forever. Through the grapevine, I heard Alex had to skip town, drowning in debt after forking over the compensation he owed me. He never did find another job. Can't say I'm surprised, but I ain't losing sleep over it either. Now, I'm living a whole new chapter. I took the plunge and opened my own cosmetology office right near the house. Every day, clients come in, looking for a bit of sparkle, and I'm more than happy to give it to them. Business is booming, and I'm doing what I love, on my own terms. There's a satisfaction in that, a sense of achievement that no one can take away from me. My mom, she's over the moon about how things turned out. I always knew you had it in you, Mia, she'd say with that proud mom smile. You've got that fire, just like I did at your age. I had one of those heart-to-hearts with her not long ago, over a couple of cups of strong coffee. Mom, remember when you pushed for that prenup? Gotta say, that was a lifesaver. She just chuckled, sipping her coffee. Honey, I've seen a thing or two in my time. Always better to be prepared. It got me thinking about how life's full of these little twists and turns. You think you're headed straight down one path, and then bam, you're taking a sharp left into the unknown. But here I am, navigating it, making it mine. As I lock up for the night, I take a moment to breathe in the quiet of my little corner of the world. I've got plans, dreams bigger than before. And for the first time in a long while, they feel entirely within reach. Life threw me a curveball, but I swung back harder. Here's to new beginnings, to fighting for your dreams, and to standing tall, no matter the storm. I'm Mara, just a regular person who used to work as an economist until life threw me a curveball. 5 years ago, everything changed when I met Tom at a party hosted by my best friend, Lisa. It was a typical Friday night, and Lisa had been on my case about meeting someone new. You gotta get out more, Mara. You can't just work and sit at home all the time, she had chided me on the phone. I finally gave in, thinking it would shut her up for a while. The party was in full swing when I arrived, a little nervous, clutching a bottle of wine like a lifeline. Lisa greeted me at the door with her usual big smile and even bigger glass of wine. Mara, you made it. Come on, I want you to meet someone, she said, dragging me through the crowd before I could even catch my breath. That's when I first saw Tom. He was leaning against the kitchen counter, beer in hand, laughing loudly at something on his phone. Lisa introduced us, and his smile shifted my way, lighting up his face. Hey, I'm Tom. Lisa's told me a lot about you. Hopefully, all good things, I replied, trying to sound lighthearted. Only the best, he shot back, giving me a wink that made me blush. We got to talking, and I was surprised at how easy it was to chat with him. He worked in logistics for a transport company and seemed to know a lot about a lot of things. He was confident, maybe too confident, but it was kind of refreshing. Later in the evening, we found ourselves sitting on Lisa's porch, away from the noise. So, why has a catch like you been hiding? Tom asked, a cheeky grin on his face. I'm not hiding, just busy with work and stuff, I said, fumbling with my words a bit. Too busy for a date with me? He teased, not missing a beat. I laughed, a real laugh, not the polite kind you do out of courtesy. I suppose I could make some time. That's what I wanted to hear, Tom said, clinking his beer bottle against my wine glass. As the party wound down, Tom offered to drive me home. I hesitated at first, but Lisa gave me a look that said, go for it, girl. So, I did. We talked the whole way, and by the time he dropped me off, he had snagged my number and a promise for a dinner date the next week. My mom was thrilled when I told her about Tom. Oh, Mara, finally. He sounds wonderful. When can I meet him? She gushed over the phone. Slow down, Mom. It's just been a few dates, I reminded her, but I couldn't hide my smile. Her excitement was infectious. The day Tom proposed, 6 months later, was simple, yet perfect. We were at my favorite park, the one where we'd had our third date. He got down on one knee right by the lake, and I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said, tears of joy streaming down my face. Mom came to the wedding, beaming with pride. I can't wait for the grandkids, she whispered during the reception, already planning ahead. I just laughed and hugged her, hoping that part of the dream would come true too. Settling into married life was easy at first. We moved into the house I inherited from my dad. It was more than just a building, it was filled with memories of my childhood and the dreams I had of making it a home for my own family. I quit my job and became a housewife. The money my dad left me was enough for a comfortable existence. Tom and I spent weekends fixing the place up. He joked about my obsession with antique furniture, but he loved the results. Our home, he would say, wrapping his arms around me as we admired our work. It was supposed to be our forever home. That's how it all started, anyway. I thought I had everything figured out, but life, as always, had other plans. After the honeymoon phase of our marriage began to fade, Tom and I found ourselves face to face with reality. Trying to start a family wasn't as straightforward as we'd hoped. Month after month, disappointment greeted us, and each negative test weighed heavily on us, especially on me. Tom's patience was wearing thin. One evening, after another failed attempt, he exploded. "I just don't get it, Mara. What's the problem? Why isn't this working?" he shouted, slamming his fist on the kitchen table so hard that the plates rattled. I was stirring the soup on the stove, trying to keep my composure. "The doctor said these things take time, Tom. We just need to be patient," I replied, my voice trembling a bit from the tension. "Patient? We've been patient for over a year now. I'm sick of waiting." His voice was raw with frustration. I poured the soup into bowls, my hands shaking. "I'm doing everything I can," I said quietly, avoiding his gaze. "Yeah? Well, maybe it's not enough." He stormed out of the kitchen, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the echo of his words. The next day, Tom apologized for his outburst, but the cycle of hope and disappointment continued, each cycle chipping away at the love and warmth we once shared. Our weekends transformed from cozy time spent together to silent meals and even quieter evenings. One Saturday, as I was trying out a new recipe I learned in a cooking class, Tom walked into the kitchen. He watched me for a moment before speaking. "That smells good. Learning anything new?" he asked, his tone light, trying to make conversation. "Yeah, it's a new recipe from the cooking class. Thought I'd try it out," I responded, focusing on chopping vegetables rather than meeting his eyes. "Great, another dish for the two of us." "It's always just the two of us, isn't it?" His words stung, and I could hear the bitterness seeping in. I stopped chopping, placing the knife down with a clatter. "What do you want me to say, Tom? I'm trying here. It's not like I don't want a family." We sat down to eat the meal I prepared in silence. It was good, but the air between us was thick with unspoken words and buried frustrations. As the months rolled on, the pressure only grew. Conversations about the future became minefields, and Tom often retreated into his work, coming home late, leaving early, and growing more distant. I tried to fill my days with activities, keeping the house immaculate, hoping somehow that would fix things. One evening, while Tom was working late again, I called Lisa for some support. "Hey, Mara, how's it going?" Lisa's voice was a welcome sound. "Not great, Lise. It's just hard right now. I feel like I'm living with a stranger," I confessed, sinking into the couch. "Oh, Mara, I'm so sorry. Anything I can do?" "Just talking helps," I said, tears threatening to spill. "I miss him, Lisa. I miss us." "I know, hon, but you guys are strong. You'll get through this. Maybe see a counselor? It might help to talk to someone neutral." "Yeah, maybe," I murmured, not convinced, but willing to try anything to regain some semblance of the life we once dreamed of. Lately, I've been feeling off, like my body's running on empty. No matter how much I sleep, I wake up tired. It's been going on for a while, and it's getting worse, not better. I tried talking to Tom about it, thinking he'd want to help, or at least understand. "Tom, I'm really struggling here. I don't know what's wrong with me, I'm always exhausted," I told him one evening, hoping for some compassion, or maybe just a bit of concern. He barely looked up from his phone. "You're probably just being lazy. You need to get up and do something, stop pretending." That stung. Pretending? As if I'd choose to feel like this. His words cut deep, and I decided right then to stop talking about it. What was the point if he just got mad? As the days dragged on, I did less around the house. Cooking and cleaning took all the energy I didn't have. Every task felt like climbing a mountain. Tom noticed, alright, and he wasn't happy. "Why is this place such a mess, Mara? What have you been doing all day?" He'd snap as soon as he walked through the door, his tone getting harsher with each passing week. I tried to explain, again, hoping maybe this time he'd get it. "Tom, I told you, I'm not feeling well. I can barely get off the couch most days." "Great, just what I need, a sick wife. Maybe I'd be better off alone." He threw his hands up, frustration written all over his face. Talks of divorce started slipping into our arguments, and they were getting more frequent. He was also staying out a lot, coming home late from work, or sometimes not at all on the weekends. He said he was caught up at the office, but the clues were adding up to something else. There was the smell of unfamiliar perfume when he came home, the secretive texts I'd catch glimpses of when he thought I wasn't looking. It was like he wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. I should have confronted him, maybe thrown a fit, or dug deeper into those late-night texts. But I was too worn out, too beaten down. One night, he came home late, reeking of that same perfume. He was humming some tune, almost happy. It was like he didn't care if I knew. I couldn't hold it back any longer. "You smell like perfume, Tom. Where have you been?" My voice was weak, but I needed to know. He froze, then shrugged, brushing it off like it was nothing. "Oh, that? It's probably just from someone at the office. We had a late meeting." "A meeting, right. You expect me to believe that?" I was too tired to yell, too tired to fight, but I let the suspicion hang in the air between us. "What do you want me to say, Mara? You're always too tired, too sick. Maybe think about that before you start accusing me of things." His dismissive tone was like a slap in the face. One quiet afternoon, when Tom was supposedly at another one of his endless work meetings, I mustered up the energy to tidy up a bit. It was one of my better days, though better lately just meant I could get out of bed without feeling like I might pass out. I decided to start with Tom's stuff, thinking maybe I'd clear out some old clothes for donation. That's when I stumbled upon something I never expected. Hidden in the back of his drawer, under a pile of seldom-worn dress shirts, was a small bottle. Curious, I picked it up and examined it. Male contraceptive pills. My heart sank. Why would Tom have these? We had been trying, well, I thought we were trying to have a baby. I felt the room spin as the implications hit me like a freight train. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, the bottle still in my hand. By the time Tom came home, I had worked myself into quite a state, alternating between tears and fury. He walked in, cheerful as can be, until he saw my face. "What's wrong, Mara? You look like you've seen a ghost." I threw the bottle at him. It hit the wall next to where he stood and fell to the floor. "Care to explain this?" My voice was shaking, but I managed to keep it loud enough. Tom picked up the bottle, his face a mix of confusion and then a smirk. "Oh, that? Look, Mara, I didn't want to say it outright, but yeah, I've been taking these. I realized I don't want kids. At least not with you." His words felt like a punch in the gut. "You what? All this time, you let me think the problem was me?" He shrugged, his smirk turning into a full-on laugh. "Well, it wasn't a problem for me until now. I guess you finally caught on." I felt a rush of anger and clarity. "I want a divorce, Tom." He raised his eyebrows, almost relieved. "Fine by me. But we'll be splitting everything, right? The house, the cars, all of it." I couldn't help but laugh, even though my heart was pounding and my health was wavering. "Actually, Tom, everything we have was bought with the money my dad left me. It's all in my name. You won't get a cent." Tom's face turned red, his anger boiling over. "You think you can keep it all? I'll take you to court. I'll sue you for every damn thing you own." As we argued, my vision started to blur, and a wave of dizziness overwhelmed me. I felt the room spinning faster, and before I could grasp onto something, everything went black. When I came to, the room was spinning, and I could hear faint voices in the background. My vision was blurry, but I could make out two figures in the kitchen. My heart pounded as I strained to hear what was being said. It was Tom's voice, and he wasn't alone. "Just need to be patient a bit longer," I heard a woman's voice say, low and urgent. "Everything will fall into place once she's out of the picture." Tom's reply was a hushed, anxious whisper. "Are you sure this is going to work? It feels risky, and if anyone finds out." "Will you relax? I've got it covered. I know what I'm doing," she snapped back. The confidence in her tone was chilling. "The meds are untraceable, they'll just think her body gave out. Kidney failure, maybe." I felt a cold sweat break out across my forehead. My hands trembled as I gripped the arm of the sofa, trying to process the betrayal. Was Tom really planning something so sinister? To think he'd go this far. I gathered all the strength I could muster and managed to crawl a bit closer, hiding behind the doorframe. "Listen to me, Tom. We're in this together now. You said you wanted a way out, right? This is it. No messy divorce, no losing half your stuff. Just wait till she's gone," the woman coaxed. My breath hitched, and I stifled a gasp. The betrayal cut deeper with each word. I needed to see who was with him. Carefully, peering around the corner, I caught a glimpse of the woman. Dark hair, confident posture. Could it be someone from his work? Their conversation was cut short as they heard a noise, the cat knocking something over in another room. They quickly lowered their voices further, and I couldn't make out the words anymore. Realizing the danger of my situation, I knew I had to act weak. I crawled back to where I had previously lain, positioning myself as if I had lost consciousness again. From my feigned position, I heard their conversation end with a soft murmur of agreement, followed by the sound of a kiss, a sound that made my stomach churn. Footsteps approached, and then grew fainter as I heard the front door open and close quietly. Tom was sending her away. Moments later, he came back to where I was unconscious. He muttered under his breath as he picked me up. "Always something with you, isn't it? Just can't handle things like a normal person." His arms felt cold and his grip was firm as he carried me upstairs, to our bedroom. The physical closeness, once a source of comfort, now felt threatening, but I kept my breathing even, pretending to be out cold. Gently, he laid me on the bed. I could feel his presence lingering as if he was assessing if I truly was out. After a moment, I heard him sigh heavily and then the sound of his footsteps retreating. The bedroom door clicked shut, leaving me alone in the darkness. The next morning, Tom's whole demeanor changed. He woke me up with breakfast in bed, something he hadn't done in months, and his face was lined with a softness I hadn't seen in a long time. "Mara, I'm really sorry about everything," he said, his voice gentle, almost careful. "I've been a jerk, and I shouldn't have pushed you so hard. Please, let's not talk about divorce anymore. I love you, more than anything." Hearing him say that, after everything I'd overheard, felt surreal. I nodded, keeping my face neutral. "Okay, Tom, we can try to work things out," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. His relief was palpable, and he kissed my forehead before getting ready for work. "I'll do better, you'll see," he promised as he left. As soon as the door shut behind him, my act dropped. I grabbed my phone and called my mom. "Mom, I need you to come here. It's urgent," I said as soon as she picked up. Her voice was laced with immediate concern. "What's wrong, Mara? You sound upset." "It's Tom. I can't explain everything over the phone, but it's bad. I need you here," I managed to say, trying to keep my voice steady. Without hesitation, she responded, "I'm booking the next flight out. I'll be there as soon as I can, sweetheart." It took 2 agonizing days for her to arrive. When she did, I spilled everything, the overheard conversation, my sudden health issues, my fears about being poisoned. Hearing it all out loud made it even more terrifying, but Mom was my rock. "Oh, Mara," she sighed, her eyes welling up with worry. "We need to get you to a hospital, right now." At the hospital, I relayed my symptoms and suspicions to the doctor, who listened intently and immediately ordered a series of tests. Waiting for the results was excruciating, but finally, the doctor returned with a grave expression. "We found a potent substance in your bloodstream that's consistent with your symptoms. It's typically used in medications to manage severe conditions, but taken without need, it can be extremely harmful," he explained. My heart sank. I haven't been taking any medications. That means... Mom gripped my hand tightly, her lips set in a thin line. "It means Tom has been giving it to you, doesn't it? We suspected, but now we know." The doctor nodded grimly. "Given the situation, I've taken the liberty of informing the police. They are concerned about your safety and suggest a plan to catch your husband red-handed." I was hesitant, the danger feeling all too real. "You mean, pretend like I don't know anything? Let him think he's still fooling me?" "That's the idea. It's the best way to ensure we catch him without him altering his behavior too soon," the officer who had joined explained. After a deep breath, feeling the weight of my decision, I agreed. "Okay, let's do it. If it'll stop him and protect anyone else from being hurt by him, I'll do what's necessary." The next day was like a scene from a twisted drama. Tom came by the hospital with a bag of my personal belongings and a thermos of green tea, my favorite, or so he claimed. He had this look on his face, all caring and concerned, but I saw right through it. "Brought you some tea, love. I know how much you like it when it's freshly brewed," he said, placing the thermos on the small hospital table with a soft clink. "Thanks, just leave it on the table. I'll have some in a bit," I replied, keeping my voice steady. Tom frowned, pushing the thermos closer to me. "Come on, Mara, have some now. It'll warm you up," he insisted, his voice taking on a pressing tone. I shook my head slightly. "Later, Tom. I'm really not up for it right now." Just then, the door to my room swung open, and 2 police officers stepped in. Tom startled, his hand twitching towards the thermos. In a swift move that betrayed his nervousness, he tried to tip it over, to spill its contents on the floor. "Don't move," one of the officers commanded, rushing over to stop him. They grabbed the thermos, securing it, while the other officer grabbed Tom's arms, pulling them behind his back. "You are being detained on suspicion of attempting to harm your wife," the officer holding Tom announced as they cuffed him. Tom's face went white, his eyes darting around the room in panic. "This is a misunderstanding," he stammered. "I was just bringing her some tea." The officers weren't buying it. They led him out of the room, his protests fading as they moved down the hallway. I sat there, a mix of relief and disbelief washing over me. The police had acted just in time, part of their plan to catch Tom in the act, based on the evidence and my testimony. Later, at the police station, I learned more. Tom had been interrogated, and it all came out. He had been plotting with his mistress, a nurse with knowledge of medicines, to poison me slowly. They wanted it to look like natural causes, like kidney failure, so they could take everything I owned. It's clear now. His intentions were lethal. "You're lucky, Mara. It's good you came to us when you did," the detective told me, his face grim. Tom and his mistress were charged, their plans laid bare in court for all to see. I attended every hearing, bolstered by my family and friends' support. Watching him face the consequences, I felt a strong sense of vindication. The jury didn't take long to deliver their verdict, guilty on all counts. After the trial, reporters swarmed outside, eager for a statement. Justice was served, I told them, my voice firmer than I felt. And now, I'm ready to move forward. After the dust settled from the trial and Tom and his mistress were locked away, I didn't just sit back. I was still reeling from all the damage they had done, not just to my life, but to my health. I decided to take further action and filed a lawsuit against both of them for the physical and emotional harm they caused. It was a tough process, dragging all those details out in court again, but it was worth it. The court ruled in my favor, ordering them to pay me compensation for all the suffering they inflicted. It felt like a final stamp of justice, acknowledgement of everything I had been through. Mom had been my rock throughout this ordeal. When the house finally sold, she was right there, packing boxes with me. "You did the right thing, selling it," she said as we taped up another box of kitchen stuff. "I know, Mom. I just couldn't stay there, not with all those memories," I replied, wiping a smear of dust off my cheek. "Now, you've got a clean slate, Mara. You can start building something new, something better," she encouraged, her voice strong and sure. That's exactly what I intended to do. I moved back in with Mom for a while. Living with her brought a sense of peace and stability back into my life that I hadn't realized I'd missed so much. Soon enough, I started looking for a job. I wanted something that felt meaningful, where I could make a difference. That's when I found the opening at a charity organization that helped people who were struggling through tough times. It seemed like a perfect fit, a way to use my ordeal to help others. I landed the job after a heartfelt interview where I shared part of my story. "We're really glad to have you on board, Mara. Your experience and strength are going to be invaluable here," my new boss, Janet, told me on my first day. "Thanks, Janet. I'm ready to get started. I want to help people find their way out of dark places," I responded, feeling a surge of purpose. Work was challenging, but incredibly rewarding. Every day felt like I was making a difference, giving back some of the help and support I'd received from people like Lisa and Mom during my darkest days. Alright, let's dive deep into my world a bit more. Name's Nellie, and if you haven't guessed it yet, I'm all about that precision life. Crunching numbers by day at this beast of a trading company, and by night, I'm basically the queen of organization. My life's motto? A place for everything, and everything in its place. It's not just about being neat, it's about control, knowing where every penny of my hard-earned cash is going. My pals, bless them, they find my obsession a tad amusing. "Nellie, you're the only person I know who gets excited over a new filing system," they'd chuckle, shaking their heads in disbelief. But, hey, I swear this stuff has saved my skin more times than I can count. So, there I was, at this shindig thrown by a couple of friends from work. Not my usual scene, I'm more about cozy nights in with a strong cup of coffee and spreadsheets for company. But there he was, Jake, this slightly older guy with an easy smile, leaning casually against the bar. He had this manager vibe going on at a local car parts store. Not exactly Mr. Wall Street, but the man had a certain something. We got to talking, him with his beer, me with my meticulously chosen glass of wine. "So, you're into economics, huh? That's like predicting the future with numbers?" he asked, his voice tinged with genuine curiosity. I laughed, a bit louder than I intended. "Something like that. It's more about making sense of the chaos, finding patterns where others see mess." He nodded, taking a sip. "I get that. I'm all about order myself. Ever tried organizing a storeroom full of car parts without losing your mind?" "Can't say I have," I admitted. "But it sounds like a puzzle." "A frustrating one," Jake agreed. "But satisfying when everything fits just right." Our conversation rolled on, smooth and easy. It was a breath of fresh air, talking to someone who didn't just nod along, but actually got it. We shared stories about our work, the challenges of keeping things in line, and the odd satisfaction of a well-organized spreadsheet. Weeks turned into months, and our casual meetups became something more. Jake had this straightforward way of cutting through the BS that I really admired. He didn't dress things up or play games, he was just real. One chilly evening, after a dinner where we'd both complained about our day, Jake turned to me, his expression serious. "Nellie, I've been thinking." I raised an eyebrow. "About?" "Us," he said simply. "I know I'm not the kind of guy who goes for grand gestures, but I'm pretty sure I've hit the jackpot with you." I could feel my heart racing, the anticipation building. And I'm thinking, why wait? "Nellie, will you marry me?" He fumbled slightly as he pulled out a small, velvet box, revealing a ring that was elegant in its simplicity. It was so Jake, no fluff, no extravagant speeches. Just a straight-up proposal. And it was perfect. Yes, Jake. A million times, yes. Planning a wedding, you'd think it's all about lovey-dovey stuff, picking flowers, and tasting cakes. Well, add a bit of family drama to the mix, and you've got a whole different ball game. Me and Jake, we decided to keep it simple, just close friends and family. Little did I know, the definition of simple was about to get a reality check. Jake's sister, Emily, she's got these 4 kids, right? Little tornadoes, I swear. The moment we announced our wedding date, I could see the mischief in their eyes. Jake, bless him, he's all laid back. Kids will be kids, Nelly. They'll be fine. Famous last words. As D-Day approached, I found myself knee-deep in seating charts and menu choices. One evening, Jake and I were finalizing the guest list. Are we sure about inviting the whole crew? I joked, eyeing the names of Emily's kids. Feels like we're summoning a hurricane. Jake chuckled, wrapping an arm around me. They're not that bad. Plus, Em needs a break. It'll be fine. Fine, I echoed, not entirely convinced. But love's about compromises, right? I figured, how bad could it be? Cut to the wedding day. The venue looked like something out of a dream, all decked out and ready. That is, until the mini hurricanes made their grand entrance. Running around like they owned the place, I watched as my carefully planned day teetered on the edge of chaos. Mid-ceremony, one of them knocked over a vase. Water everywhere. I caught Jake's eye, and for a second, he looked as panicked as I felt. But then, he just grinned and shrugged. That man, I tell you, unflappable. At the reception, Emily was off mingling, her kids running wild. Jake and I were trying to make rounds, thanking guests, when one of the little darlings decided to showcase his food fighting skills. I felt something splat against my back, cake, icing, and all. I spun around, ready to blow a fuse, when Jake caught my hand. Hey, it's just cake. Let's not sweat the small stuff today. Small stuff? Jake, they're turning our wedding into a circus, I hissed, trying to keep my voice down. He leaned in, a smirk playing on his lips. Makes for a memorable day, doesn't it? Memorable was one word for it. By the end of the night, I was exhausted, covered in various food stains, and sporting a headache from the constant din. But as we made our escape, Jake's hand in mine, I couldn't help but laugh. Your family's nuts, I told him, shaking my head. Yep, but now they're your nuts too, he teased, pulling me closer. Great. Just what I always wanted, I replied, rolling my eyes, but leaning into his embrace. After the wedding whirlwind, me and Jake settled into our new life together. It felt like playing house at first, both of us tiptoeing around each other's routines, trying to mesh our worlds without stepping on toes. We were living in this cozy, rented apartment downtown, close enough to both our jobs that the morning commute was a breeze. But it wasn't long before the newlywed bliss phase started to wear thin, and the real work of building a life together began. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I found Jake sprawled on the couch, surrounded by a mountain of real estate listings. What's all this? I asked, dropping my keys on the counter. Jake sat up, a spark in his eyes. I was thinking, why not take the leap? Let's buy a place of our own. The idea of buying a house hadn't really crossed my mind yet. Are we ready for that? That's a big step. He shrugged. We're not getting any younger. Plus, think about it, no more rent, a place we can actually call ours. Come on, what do you say? I couldn't deny the appeal. The thought of having our own space, decorating it just the way we wanted, hosting dinner parties, and maybe, just maybe, starting a family, filled me with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Okay, let's do it, I said, the decision feeling right despite the butterflies in my stomach. Fast forward through the headache of house hunting, and we're standing in front of this quaint place that's now ours. It's got a backyard that's begging for a barbecue and more rooms than we know what to do with. I took the lead on kitting out our new digs, making sure everything was just perfect. Jake was all for it, but he couldn't help poking fun at me for keeping every receipt for the furniture and appliances. "What's this, the Nellie Museum Archive?" He'd chuckle, flipping through my meticulously organized folder. "Hey, you never know when you might need to return something," I'd retort, not letting on how much I loved that everything in our home was picked out by me, with my own cash. It was more than just being responsible, it was a piece of me in every choice, every purchase. It felt good, building something together, making decisions. But beneath the surface, there was a tension brewing, a silent elephant in the room that neither of us wanted to address. I couldn't get pregnant. Months turned into a year, and every negative test felt like a tiny heartbreak. I tried to keep a brave face, focusing on our home, my work, anything but the growing fear that maybe motherhood wasn't in the cards for me. One night, lying in bed, Jake broke the silence. "We don't have to keep trying, you know. If it's too much." I cut him off. "No, I want to keep trying. It's hard." He pulled me closer, kissing the top of my head. "We'll figure it out, okay? Whatever happens, we're in this together." His words were a bomb, but they couldn't quite chase away the shadow that had settled over us. The joy of our new home was tinged with the sadness of what was missing. Despite the struggles, life went on. We hosted barbecues, celebrated holidays, and filled our home with laughter and love. But the guest room that we'd earmarked as a nursery remained empty, a silent reminder of the one thing we couldn't seem to achieve. The whole ordeal with Emily and her brood turning our wedding into a zoo was getting out of hand. She'd rock up from the next town over, dumping her chaos at our doorstep with a "Hey, just passing through." Like clockwork, her arrival spelled the end of any peace and quiet. The kids, bless their hearts, were a handful, to put it mildly. Running around like they'd just been let out of a cage, screaming, fighting, you name it. And Emily? She'd just plant herself on our couch, launching into the latest saga with her husband like she was the star of some daytime drama. One of those Saturdays, she's mid-rant about her husband's new prank or something, and her kids are practically swinging from the light fixtures. I'm there, trying to keep my cool, but inside, I'm a second away from losing it. "Emily, can you maybe, I don't know, get them to tone it down a bit?" I ask, my voice tight with that edge of "I'm trying not to scream here." She barely glances up, waving a hand dismissively. "Oh, they're just being kids. Let them be." Let them be. Sure, it being means turning my home into a circus. It was later, during dinner, when the real kicker came. One of the kids decided to turn his spaghetti into a projectile, launching it across the table. I snapped. "That's enough. We do not throw food in this house." Emily's face turned stormy, and she hit me with, "Maybe if you had kids of your own, you'd understand." That stung. More than she knew. Jake's there, but he's doing his best impression of Switzerland, staying neutral. Or maybe more accurately, siding with his sister by not siding with anyone. It felt like a betrayal, him not stepping in, not backing me up. Later, I corner Emily in the kitchen, trying to keep my voice level. "You know that was out of line, right? What you said earlier." She's unapologetic, all but rolling her eyes. "Oh, please. You're overreacting. It's just kids being kids." I'm fuming, but there's no getting through to her. And Jake? He's no help, always with the "she's going through a tough time" excuse. Like that's a free pass to disrespect our home. It got to the point where every ring of the doorbell had me tensing up, wondering if it was another surprise invasion. I loved Jake, but his inability to stand up to his sister, to see how this was tearing at the fabric of our quiet life, was driving a wedge between us. One evening, after yet another chaotic visit, I cornered Jake. "We need to talk. This can't go on." He sighs, running a hand through his hair. "She's family, Nellie. What do you want me to do? Stand up for me, for us?" I shoot back, my frustration boiling over. Your sister's behavior, and those kids. It's too much. He looks torn, but I can tell he's struggling to see it from my side. I'll talk to her. He finally mutters, but the promise feels hollow. So, there I was, on what was supposed to be a quiet weekend, transformed into a live-in chef and babysitter for Emily's brood. She breezed out the door, off to shop, leaving a tornado of demands in her wake. I want spaghetti, one shouted. No, make pizza, another demanded. The chaos was enough to make my head spin, and that was before the TV volume cranked to a level that could probably be heard in the next city over. Just as I was about to lose my last shred of sanity to the symphony of kitchen timers and cartoon explosions, an eerie silence fell over the house. Anyone who says silence is golden has never had to deal with kids. That kind of quiet? It's the calm before the storm. Dread settled in the pit of my stomach as I stepped out of the kitchen, half expecting to find the living room turned into a war zone. What I saw instead stopped me dead in my tracks. There, in the midst of the living room, stood Jake's nephews, covered in paint, with my grandmother's painting, the one she'd passed down to me, the one thing I'd cherished above almost everything else, ruined. Streaks of paint obliterated the once beautiful image, turning it into a mockery of its former glory. The anger that surged through me was like nothing I'd ever felt. What have you done? My voice was sharp, a whip crack in the silent room. The kids, sensing the shift, scattered, leaving me alone with the wreckage of my heritage. The fight that ensued when Jake and Emily got back was apocalyptic. You were supposed to watch them. Emily had the gall to accuse, her words fanning the flames of my rage. These aren't my kids, Emily. It's not my job to watch them every second. I shot back, my voice hoarse with anger. Jake, ever the peacekeeper, tried to intervene, but there was no stopping this. Nellie, they're just kids. We'll fix the painting. He tried to reassure me, but the damage was done, both to the painting and to us. That's not the point, Jake. That painting meant the world to me. It's about respect, about understanding. Something your sister clearly lacks. I was beyond reasoning, the betrayal cutting deep. The argument spiraled, words like knives, leaving wounds too deep to see. Jake sided with Emily, a choice that stung more than I cared to admit. After that, silence. Not the tense quiet before a storm, but the cold, empty silence that fills a room when there's nothing left to say. Ever since the whole painting incident, things between Jake and me were tense, like a string pulled too tight, ready to snap. That breakfast, though, that's when it all came crashing down. Jake, in his infinite wisdom, decided over coffee and toast that it was the perfect time to drop a bomb on me. So, Emily split up with her husband. She's gonna stay here, with the kids. Just for a few months. I almost choked on my coffee. Wait, what? Here? Jake, do you even remember what happened last time? This house can't survive that kind of storm. He sighed, the kind of sigh that said he was bracing for an argument he thought he'd win. It's family, Nellie. We can't turn them away. Besides, you're great with the kids. I snorted. Great with them? I'm not running a daycare, Jake. I have a job, remember? The one that pays for half of everything in this house? He wasn't budging, though. She's coming over tomorrow. We'll figure it out. Figure it out, right. Because we'd done such a stellar job of that so far. I couldn't let it go. What about renting them a place? I'll pay for the first month. They'll have their space, we'll have ours. Everyone's happy. But Jake shook his head, stubborn as ever. It's better if they're here. You know, family support and all that. Support. That's what he called this impending chaos. The argument spiraled from there, words sharp and heated. You can't decide this without me, Jake. This is our home, not a halfway house, for every relative in crisis. He shot back, just as angry. They're my family, Nellie. Should I just turn my back on them? No, but there's a limit. There has to be. The conversation ended with slammed doors and silent treatments. The next day, when I needed to get to work, my car keys were mysteriously missing. A call to Jake revealed the final betrayal. "Emily needs the car more than you do," he said, like he was doing me a favor. That was it. The last straw on a back broken by compromise and sacrifice. While Jake was off playing savior, I took action. I called the movers, directing them to every piece of furniture my paycheck had ever touched. The living room set, the dining table, even the damn curtains. By the afternoon, the house was empty, a shell of the home it once was. I drove to my mom's, the back of my car filled with the last bits and pieces of my old life. She was waiting, as she always did, with open arms and a pot of coffee on. "Jake's going to flip," was all I could say as I walked in, the weight of my decisions heavy on my shoulders. Mom just nodded, pouring me a cup. "Sometimes, you have to stand up for yourself, honey. No matter how hard it is." As I sat there, sipping coffee in the quiet of my mom's kitchen, I couldn't help but smile, imagining Jake's face when he walked into our empty house. It wasn't spite that warmed me, but a flicker of hope, a sense of freedom. I had drawn a line, finally, after months of being erased and redrawn by everyone but me. In a few hours, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree with calls from Jake. I didn't pick up. Couldn't, really. I just watched the count of missed calls climb, each one a reminder of the storm I knew was brewing. By evening, the storm broke right on my mom's doorstep. Jake showed up, mad as a hornet, ready to have it out then and there. "You've lost your mind, Nellie. Calling you a thief would be putting it mildly," he roared the moment I opened the door, stepping into the quiet of my mom's living room like a whirlwind of fury. I kept my cool, even as my hands itched to wring his neck for bringing all this drama to my mom's house. "Thief? Really, Jake? Let's get this straight. You took the car, our car, saying you bought it, so it was yours to give away." "Well, I took back what I paid for. Fair's fair." His face went through about a dozen shades of red and purple as I laid out the receipts on the coffee table, proof of every penny I'd spent on our home. This isn't how you solve problems, Nellie." "Oh, and letting your sister and her circus take over our lives was a solution?" I shot back, my patience worn to a nub. He was pacing now, like a caged animal. "Where are they supposed to sleep, huh? You've left my sister and her kids without beds and blankets." I shrugged, all out of sympathy. "Sounds like a you problem now, Jake." That's when he played his last card, the threat of divorce hanging between us like a guillotine. "I'll file for divorce. I swear, Nellie, I will." I didn't blink, didn't flinch. Instead, I reached into the folder I'd kept close all day and pulled out the divorce papers. "Beat you to it. Here. I've wanted out for a while now. Sign them, and you're free to play the hero all you want." The silence that followed was deafening. He took the papers, scanning them like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Then, without a word, he signed them. Just like that, it was done. He left as quickly as he'd come, leaving a wake of stunned silence behind him. After the dust settled from the whole divorce saga, I found myself in this weird limbo, caught between relief and uncertainty. Jake and I sold the house, split the money down the middle. Through the grapevine, because small towns have nothing if not an efficient rumor mill, I heard about Jake's new setup. Him, Emily, and her rowdy crew crammed into a small apartment. The thought of it brought a mix of emotions. There was a petty part of me that wanted to revel in the schadenfreude, but mostly, I just felt sorry for him. Jake was working himself to the bone, juggling 2 jobs, to keep them all afloat. And Emily? Still not lifting a finger, still the queen of her own little drama. I ran into Lisa, one of our mutual friends, at the grocery store. "Hey, Nellie, you heard about Jake's new place?" she asked, all casual, like she wasn't dropping the latest town gossip. I shrugged, tossing a box of cereal into my cart. "Heard something about it. Sounds cozy." Lisa laughed, shaking her head. "Cozy's one word for it. Heard they're at each other's throats half the time." Emily's not making things easy. I sighed, not sure what to feel. Well, he made his bed. Now he's gotta lie in it. Lisa patted my arm, a silent show of support. You're better off, you know. You seem lighter, somehow. Lighter. That was exactly it. The weight of constant compromise, of living in a perpetual state of tension, had lifted. I was starting over, and the freedom of it was exhilarating. My new apartment wasn't much, just a small, bright space that was all mine. Decorating it felt therapeutic, a way to mark the beginning of this new chapter. My mom helped, her presence a comforting constant in the whirlwind of change. You need anything else, honey? She asked one afternoon, surveying my half-unpacked living room. I looked around, taking in the boxes, the bare walls waiting to be filled with new memories. No, I think I'm good. Thanks, Mom. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. One evening, as I stood back to admire a particularly vibrant canvas, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. It was from Jake. Hope you're doing well, Nellie. I'm sorry for everything. I stared at the screen for a long time, the words blurring before my eyes. The apology was unexpected, a small olive branch after months of silence. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to maintain the walls I'd built around my newfound peace. But another part, a softer, more forgiving part, typed out a response. Thanks, Jake. I'm doing okay. Take care of yourself. Sending that text felt like closing a book I'd been reading for too long. There was no going back, no desire to revisit old chapters. I was ready to write new ones, stories of my own making. And for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where the story would take me. At 27, my life took a wild turn. My dad, who had bailed on us years ago after cheating on Mom, kicked the bucket and left me everything he had. It was a weird mix of feelings. I was sad about losing him, but let's be honest, we weren't close. And then, there was this whole becoming rich overnight thing. I inherited a bunch of shares in a famous company. It was like out of nowhere, I could actually think about doing anything I wanted. Mom was on edge about it though. One evening, as we sat in our old kitchen, she said, "Be careful, Olivia. Now that you're loaded, you'll see how many leeches come sniffing around." I just laughed it off. Mom, come on. I can handle a few gold diggers. Then I met Mark. He was just a regular clerk at the property agency, where I was trying to untangle the mess of inheriting Dad's estate. The place was always packed, but Mark stood out with his straightforward charm and an easy smile that seemed to simplify everything. "Looks like you've got quite the stack there. Need a hand?" he offered, pointing at my pile of papers. "Would love some help, thanks. Feels like I'm drowning in paperwork," I admitted. As he sifted through the forms, he kept the conversation light. "So, inheriting a fortune, huh? Bet that's a lot to take in." "You have no idea. It's a lot all at once," I said, feeling a bit more at ease. We ended up chatting more each time I was there. It wasn't just about the will or the shares, we connected over simple things, like our favorite movies and where we liked to hang out on weekends. He was easygoing and had this knack for making me laugh when I least expected it. After a few weeks, he asked me out. Just casual drinks at a dive bar we both liked. "So, how about we take this discussion outside of these boring walls? Grab a beer with me?" he suggested with a grin. I agreed without hesitation. It felt right. Our dates turned into something more serious pretty quickly, and before I knew it, we were talking about a future together. One lazy evening, while we were sharing a pizza at my place, he turned to me and said, "Liv, I've been thinking. Why don't we make this official? Marry me?" His proposal was just like him, no dramatics, just straight to the point. I almost choked on my slice from laughing so hard, then I said, "Yeah, why not?" Planning the wedding was straightforward. We wanted something simple, something that felt true to who we were. We talked about what we loved, finding out we both preferred a small ceremony with just close friends and family around. As we planned our life together, we realized how much we had in common. We both dreamt of starting our own business, using my inheritance as a stepping stone. Mark was full of ideas, always sketching out plans on napkins or the back of receipts. "Think about it, Liv. We could build something great, something just ours," he'd say, his eyes lighting up with every new idea. "Yeah, I love that. Building our future, together," I'd reply, equally caught up in the excitement. We spent nights talking about the possibilities, from the type of business we could start to the places we might travel. Our life was laid out before us, a map of dreams and shared ambitions. Before we got married, he suggested we should use the inheritance from my dad, those shares I got, to kickstart our own thing. It felt right, you know? Building something from scratch together. I was all in, but I figured I should run it by Mom first. I remember sitting in her old, cozy kitchen, the one with yellow wallpaper that's seen better days. I spilled the beans about using the inheritance as startup capital. Mom's face got all serious, like it does when she's about to drop some heavy advice. "Olivia, you gotta protect yourself. Get a prenup," she insisted, stirring her coffee slowly. "Make sure it says if one of you cheats and bails, they lose their share in the business." I frowned, kinda taken aback. "Mom, why bring up cheating? I trust Mark. We're not gonna screw each other over." She sighed, the sound heavy with old hurts. "I'm just saying, Olivia, because of what your father did to me. It's not about trust, it's about being smart." I felt a sting at that, realizing maybe she had a point. I didn't want to think about it, but arguing felt wrong. "Sorry, Mom. I guess you're right," I murmured, feeling that knot in my gut loosen a bit. When I told Mark about the prenup, he wasn't thrilled. At first, he just went quiet, and I could tell he was mulling it over. "A prenup, Liv? Really?" he finally said, his voice a mix of surprise and a bit of hurt. "Yeah, it's just, my mom suggested it. It's like insurance, you know? Not that I think we'll ever need it," I rushed to explain, watching his reaction closely. He took a deep breath, ran his fingers through his hair, and then looked me straight in the eyes. "I love you, Liv. You're the most important person in my world. If this makes you feel secure, then I'm on board. Let's do it your way." Hearing him say that, it felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. We got the prenup sorted, making sure it was fair but firm on the terms. And after that, there was a modest and dignified wedding ceremony, exactly the kind I dreamed of. We went ahead and sold those shares, and the money that came in was more than enough to get our dream off the ground. Mark's eyes practically lit up when we saw the figures. "This is it, Liv. We're gonna make it big," he said, his excitement infectious. We poured everything into setting up our business. It was going to be a wholesale warehouse for medical equipment. Neither of us had any real experience in it, but Mark was great with people and I had a head for numbers. It seemed like the perfect match. "We'll start small, grow fast. Keep overheads low and expand when we can afford it," Mark planned out loud as we toured potential warehouse spots. "Sounds like a plan," I agreed, already picturing the busy warehouse, the orders flying in, our future unfolding. Our wholesale medical equipment business started picking up speed faster than we anticipated. The demand was high, and suddenly, we were swamped. It was a good problem to have, but it was still a problem. "Mark, we need to hire more help. It's just us, and we can't keep up," I said one evening, my voice drowning in a sea of paperwork on our dining table. Mark, his face buried in his laptop, barely looked up. "We can manage a bit longer. Hiring means spending, Liv. Let's just push through this." I sighed, rubbing my temples. "Push through? Look at us, Mark. We're burning out. This isn't sustainable." He shot me a look, a mix of frustration and fatigue. "All right, let's look into it, but we keep it tight. Maybe 1 or 2 part-timers." Agreeing on that was a relief, but it was just the start of our growing pains. With new staff came new responsibilities, training, payroll, and management stuff that neither of us had much clue about. I took it upon myself to learn on the fly. I signed up for a couple of online courses on business management and accounting. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. "Hey, I found this online course on accounting. Thought it might help with the books," I told Mark one night as we were locking up the warehouse. He nodded, looking genuinely relieved. "That's great, Liv. I've been worried about keeping up with all that." But as the business grew, so did the tension between us. We were both stressed, and it started to show. Mark was out networking and securing deals while I was back at the warehouse, keeping everything running. It felt like we were living separate lives. One particularly rough day, I snapped. "You're always out there, schmoozing and having a grand old time, while I'm stuck here sorting out mess after mess." Mark's face hardened. "Schmoozing? You think I enjoy this? This is for us, for the business, Liv." "It doesn't feel like us anymore, Mark. It feels like you and me, separately," I shot back, my voice cracking a bit from the stress. We both cooled down eventually, but it was clear we needed to make some changes. We decided to start scheduling regular meetings to sync up, discuss what was happening in both sides of the business, and just reconnect as a couple, not just business partners. "Let's try to not talk shop during dinner, okay? Just us, no business talk," Mark suggested during one of our first attempts to balance work and life. I agreed, more than ready to find some normalcy again. "Deal. And maybe we can actually take a day off together soon? Like a real day off?" As we implemented these small changes, things started to improve. The business was still demanding, but managing our roles and stress became a bit easier. It was a learning curve, dealing with the growth of our business and the strains it put on us. As our business grew, so did the workload. I was buried in the day-to-day operations, managing everything from inventory to customer complaints. It was nonstop, and all that stress, coupled with too many quick meals eaten at my desk, meant I started putting on weight. My once casual jeans became a struggle to zip up, and I barely recognized the woman staring back at me in the mirror. It wasn't just the physical changes, I felt myself wearing down, losing that spark I used to have. Mark, on the other hand, spent his days schmoozing with trading partners. It was all about networking for him, building relationships that would benefit our business. But as he threw himself more and more into that part of the job, I felt him drifting away. He started coming home late, his reasons vague, his explanations hurried. "Just had to wrap up with a client," or "got caught up at the office," he'd say. It was happening too often, and it didn't sit right with me. One evening, with the party of one of our biggest suppliers just around the corner, Mark dropped a bombshell that left me reeling. We were in our kitchen, me trying to decide if I should even bother trying on another dress that I knew would be too tight, when he came out with it. "Liv, you're not coming to the party," he declared, not even bothering to look up from his phone. I froze, a dress in my hands. "Excuse me? Why the hell not?" He finally looked up, his expression cold and detached. "Look, the people there, they have a certain image. You don't fit it anymore, Liv." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you've let yourself go, Liv. You don't look the part, and I can't have you standing next to me tonight. It's bad for business," he said bluntly, as if he was talking about a faulty piece of equipment rather than his wife. I threw the dress down, my whole body shaking with anger and hurt. "So, I'm just an embarrassment to you now? Is that it?" He shrugged, his indifference like a slap in the face. "I'm thinking about the business. That's what you should be doing, instead of getting upset over a party." The words stung, and I could feel tears prickling at the back of my eyes, but I fought them back. "You go to your precious party, Mark. Don't worry about me." He left without another word, and I spent the night alone, the silence of the house echoing around me like a mockery. The more I thought about it, the more it hurt. Was this what our marriage had come to? Was the business all he cared about now? When he came back, it was late. I was sitting in the living room, the lights off, just waiting. I needed to understand why he thought it was okay to treat me like this. "How was the party?" I asked, my voice steady, despite the turmoil inside. "It was fine. Got some promising leads," he replied casually, as if nothing had happened. "That's good," I said, keeping my voice calm. "And was it worth it? Making your wife feel like garbage?" He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Look, Liv, this is how these things work. You wouldn't understand. It's all about appearances." "Appearances. Right," I said, the bitterness in my voice unmistakable. "So, our marriage is just another business deal to you now?" He didn't answer, just mumbled something about being tired and headed to bed. The fallout from that dreadful party night seemed to linger around the house like a thick fog, choking out any warmth we had left. Quarrels with Mark became the new norm. He started picking at everything about me, my weight, my few wrinkles, even how I dressed. "You going to wear that old thing again?" he'd sneer, or, "Guess we're not the young couple we used to be, huh?" I tried to brush off these jabs, but it was clear something had shifted. Mark started avoiding me, not just when we were out, but at home too. It stung more than I wanted to admit. Things got so bad that he even moved out of our bedroom, claiming he needed space to think. Then, one evening, he came home in one of his moods and tossed a gym membership card into my lap. "Here, thought you might want to actually use one of these for a change," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. I looked up at him, hurt by his blunt words. "Mark, you know how swamped I am with the business. After a long day, I just want to relax, not spend hours at the gym." His face twisted into a scowl. "Relax? Is that what you call sitting around? Maybe if you took care of yourself, I wouldn't have to avoid bringing you along to meet clients." His words hit like a slap. "Calling me lazy and fat, really? That's low, even for you," I shot back, my voice shaky with a mix of anger and humiliation. Mark just shrugged, his disdain apparent. "If the shoe fits," he muttered, before turning to head to his room. That night, as I lay alone in our big, empty bed, his words echoed in my head. I had never felt so low, so unattractive. It wasn't just the business that was between us now, it was this growing, gnawing gap where respect used to live. His absences became more frequent. Nights where he didn't come home at all became common. Each time I questioned him, he'd snap at me. "It's none of your business where I am." His coldness was slicing through me, day by day. The man I had married, who used to laugh and dream with me, was turning into a stranger, one who seemed to disdain every part of me. It was a regular Saturday evening. I'd made dinner, hoping maybe we could just have a peaceful meal for once, but the tension between us was like a thick cloud, impossible to ignore. I decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. "Mark, we need to talk. This isn't working anymore," I said, my voice steady but my hands trembling slightly as I set down my fork. He looked up from his plate, his expression darkening. "What are you talking about?" "I think we should get a divorce. We can split the business 50-50 and go our separate ways," I suggested, trying to keep my voice calm. Mark slammed his hand on the table, making the plates clatter. "Divorce? Split the business? You must be out of your mind. I built this business. Everything we have is because of my hard work. You're not taking half of it." His fury was like nothing I had seen before. He leaned in, his face twisted with anger. "I will hire the best lawyers and take every last cent from you if I have to. You're not getting anything." I recoiled from his harshness, feeling a mixture of fear and shock. "Mark, please. Don't you dare, please me, you scary, lazy fat woman. Don't bother me anymore and get out of my house," he yelled, his voice echoing off the walls. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I couldn't hold them back. I rushed to the bathroom to wash my face, trying to calm down. That's when I noticed Mark's phone on the counter. It buzzed with a new message, and without thinking, I picked it up. The message on the screen was from someone named Jesse, full of heart emojis. "I love you so much, can't wait to see you again," it read. My heart pounded as I typed in his password, his birthday, easy to remember, and opened his messages. The texts I found were like daggers. Love notes, plans for a getaway, selfies of them together, and even a message thanking him for the new car he'd bought her. I felt sick to my stomach, not just from the betrayal, but from the sheer audacity of his deceit. But as I scrolled through more messages, something within me snapped. No longer was I just the heartbroken wife, I was now a woman scorned, fueled by a cold, calculating anger. I made copies of everything, photos, texts, receipts for the car. Anything that could help me in the coming storm. Then, carefully, I replaced his phone exactly where he'd left it. When I walked out of that bathroom, I was a different person. I didn't confront Mark. I didn't break down again. I simply went back to the table, cleared the dishes, and planned my next move in silence. He suspected nothing, still consumed by his own rage and arrogance. The very next day, I went to our office early, before anyone else could arrive. My mind was set, I needed to gather all the evidence before I could make my next move. I started with the financial documents and company accounts, meticulously checking each entry to piece together how Mark managed his deceit. It didn't take long before I found what I was looking for, a record of the car he purchased for his mistress. The amount and the date were all clearly listed, right there in our business expenditures. It was more than just a betrayal, it was embezzlement. Armed with copies of every incriminating document, I left the office feeling a mix of dread and determination. Sitting in the lawyer's office later that morning, I laid out everything. He's been unfaithful, and I have proof. Texts, pictures, even a receipt for a car he bought for his mistress, I said, handing over the copies I'd made. The lawyer looked over the documents, her expression unreadable. "This is good. With the prenup and this evidence, we have a strong case. He won't see what hit him." I nodded, the reality of the situation settling in. "I want to keep the business. It's not just his, I've worked too hard to let it go." "We'll make sure of it," she assured me, her confidence reassuring. Armed with legal advice, I returned home to face Mark. He was in the living room, scrolling through his phone, oblivious to the storm coming his way. "We need to talk," I said, standing at the entrance, my resolve firm. He looked up, annoyance flickering across his face. "What now, Liv?" "I've seen the texts, Mark. I know about Jesse," I stated flatly, watching his face change from annoyance to shock. "What are you talking about?" he stammered, putting down his phone. "Don't bother denying it. I've got all the proof I need. And I've seen a lawyer," I continued, my voice cold. Mark got up, his demeanor shifting to one of anger. "You went through my phone? You're invading my privacy now?" "This is beyond privacy, Mark. You cheated. You lied. And you threatened me. It's over," I said, cutting off his attempts to intimidate me. He scoffed, shaking his head. "You think you can take the business from me? You're nothing without me." "That's where you're wrong. I'm everything I need to be. And I have enough to prove your infidelity, which, thanks to our prenup, means I get the business," I shot back, my confidence growing with every word. Mark was silent for a moment, his face a mix of anger and disbelief. "You won't get away with this." "I already have, Mark. I'm 2 steps ahead. And I'm taking what I deserve," I said, feeling a strange mix of triumph and sadness. By the time our court date rolled around, I was ready. Mark tried to fight, but the evidence was overwhelming. When the judge finally made the ruling, it was almost surreal. By court order and according to our prenuptial agreement, half of the business owned by Mark was awarded to me. This decision not only solidified my control over the company we built together, but also handed me the reins to our entire family fortune. But I didn't stop there. Given the deceit and the emotional trauma Mark had caused, I demanded financial compensation. The judge, seeing the clear evidence of Mark's infidelity and financial misconduct, granted this too. As I stood outside the courthouse, the cool breeze felt like a fresh start, washing away the remnants of a battle hard-fought and hard-won. Back at the office, the atmosphere was palpably different. I walked through the doors not just as a co-owner, but as the CEO. The employees looked up, some with smiles, others with a cautious curiosity about what changes might come. But all I felt was a surge of determination to steer the ship right. "Morning, everyone," I greeted them with a newfound confidence. "Let's get to work. We've got a lot to do, and I'm here to make sure we succeed more than ever." The responses were mixed, but mostly positive. People were ready for a fresh start as much as I was. I spent the day going through plans, meeting with department heads, and laying out the new vision for the company. It was exhilarating to have full control, to make decisions based on what I believed was best for our future. Late in the afternoon, I sat down in my office, the sun casting long shadows across the floor. The phone rang. It was Mark. A part of me tensed up at the sound of his voice, but I reminded myself of the new reality. "Olivia, I've been thinking," he started, his voice hesitant. "I made a mistake, a huge one. I was wondering if, maybe you could consider taking me back. In any capacity, at the company?" The audacity of his request took me aback, but I managed to keep my composure. "Mark, you've got some nerve calling here. After everything, you really think I'd let you back into my life, into my company?" I know it's a lot to ask," he stammered. "But I'm out of options, Olivia." "That sounds like a you problem, Mark. This company, my company, is moving forward, not backward. You made your bed. Now you lie in it," I said firmly. "Olivia, please." He tried again, desperation creeping into his voice. "I think you've said enough, Mark. Goodbye." I cut him off, hanging up before he could say another word. It felt good to finally close that chapter, to assert my independence without a trace of doubt. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. I rebranded the company, shifting our focus to innovation and community impact. We started initiatives that were close to my heart, like sponsoring health programs and investing in eco-friendly technologies. The community and the industry took notice. Sales were up, morale was high, and for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely proud of what I was building. The aroma of simmering tomato sauce and garlic infused the air of La Famiglia, our family restaurant, a symphony of scents that always soothed my soul. John, my husband for 3 decades, sat across from me, meticulously folding his napkin into a geometric origami masterpiece. "Honey," I said, tucking a wayward strand of hair behind my ear. "You've been working late an awful lot these past few weeks. Everything all right at the hotel expansion?" John looked up, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his features, before he settled into his usual confident smile. "Just some loose ends, nothing major. You know how it gets." We knew all right. Our entire lives were woven into the fabric of Isabella and John Incorporated. La Famiglia, the cozy corner hotel next door, and our chain of laundromats, all testaments to our shared dreams, countless arguments, and the relentless march of time. We were a team, a well-oiled machine that had weathered every storm life threw our way. Or at least, that's what I thought. "Maybe delegate some of it," I suggested, swirling the ruby red wine in my glass. "We have a great team, remember?" John chuckled, the sound lacking its usual warmth. "Relax, love. Everything's under control. Besides," he leaned in conspiratorially, his voice dropping to a husky whisper, "I might have a surprise for you soon." Intrigue sparked in my chest, momentarily pushing aside the nagging suspicion that had been growing like a weed in my gut. "A surprise, huh? Don't leave me hanging." John winked, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Not just yet. Let's just say you deserve a little R&R after slaving away for all these years." The following weeks were a flurry of activity. John orchestrated everything, flights, reservations, even hiring extra help at the laundromats. The surprise, it turned out, was a solo trip for me. A whole month in South Africa, a country I'd dreamt of visiting for years. Just you and some well-deserved relaxation, John had explained, his eyes holding a warmth that had been absent lately. No work, no worries, just you and the breathtaking scenery. The day of my departure arrived. John, looking oddly nervous, helped me into the cab. As I pulled away from the curb, I cast a final glance at our house, bathed in the golden hues of the afternoon sun. South Africa unfolded like a breathtaking tapestry before me. I documented it all on social media, a relentless stream of photos chronicling my solo journey. Back home, John's missing you texts felt hollow, but I pushed it down, attributing it to the stress of running the businesses alone. Finally, after a month of exhilarating freedom, I came back home, ready to return to the familiar rhythm of life. Stepping off the plane, the first thing I did was switch on my phone. A torrent of messages flooded my inbox, friends oohing and awing over my pictures, John's usual "welcome back" text conspicuously absent. A knot of unease tightened in my stomach. Dismissing it as jet lag, I hailed a cab and headed home. The familiar street, lined with towering oak trees, brought a wave of comfort. But as I approached the house, a sickening feeling washed over me. My key wouldn't turn in the lock. Panic clawed at my throat. I jiggled the handle, shoved the key in again, frustration building with each failed attempt. Finally, pulling out my phone, I dialed John's number. It rang once, twice, then a cold voice answered the phone. "Hello? John, it's me, Isabella," I stammered, my voice tight with confusion. "Why won't my key open the door?" A beat of silence followed, then a sigh. "Isabella. Look, there's no easy way to say this." John's voice, usually warm and comforting, was flat and emotionless. "I sold the house." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Sold the house? What are you talking about?" My voice cracked with disbelief. "Without even discussing it with me?" Another sigh, tinged with what sounded like annoyance. "There's a lot to unpack here, honey. Look, the truth is, I filed for divorce. We need to split things up." The phone almost slipped from my grasp. "Divorce? John, what are you saying?" Tears welled up in my eyes, blurring my vision. "We've been married for 30 years. "I know, honey, I know," John said, his voice softening a touch. "But things change. I met someone, younger, and well." He didn't need to finish the sentence. The truth, ugly and raw, slammed into me. The missing texts, John's distant behavior, it all clicked into horrifying place. "Someone younger, huh?" I repeated, my voice laced with bitterness. "And who might that be?" Another pause, this time filled with an uncomfortable tension. "It doesn't matter, Isabella. The important thing is, we need to move forward. The business will be split in half. You get the laundromats, and I'll keep La Famiglia and the hotel." "The laundromats? That's all I get?" Fury bubbled up inside me, hot and volatile. "After all these years?" The call ended abruptly, leaving me standing in the parking lot, the phone clutched in my hand like a useless relic. With trembling hands, I knocked on the door, the one that no longer belonged to me. This time it swung open a moment later. Standing in the doorway, a smug smile plastered across her face, was a woman I vaguely recognized, John's secretary, Sarah, clad in a skirt that defied the laws of physics and a top that screamed, "bought on impulse." She looked like a caricature of everything I wasn't, young, blonde, and possessing a kind of airhead confidence that grated on my nerves. "Isabella," she drawled, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "John mentioned you were coming back today." "Where is he?" I demanded, voice tight with barely contained anger. Sarah's smile widened, a touch too sharp around the edges. "Out celebrating our new life, of course. But before you get any ideas," she added, her tone turning pointed, "this house belongs to me now." She flourished a key in front of my face, the glint of metal mocking me. "And him too, I suppose," I spat, unable to hold back the bitterness that stained my voice. Sarah's smile faltered for a second, a flicker of something akin to disgust crossing her heavily made-up face. But it was quickly replaced by a smug grin. "Thanks for the well wishes, honey," she said, her voice laced with a condescending sweetness. Don't you dare call me honey. Gold digger, I growled, pushing past her into the house. The familiar space, once a haven of comfort, now felt alien. John's belongings had vanished, replaced by cheap, gaudy furniture that screamed Sarah's gaudy taste. Sarah's carefully constructed facade crumbled. Her eyes narrowed, and a vicious glint replaced the fake sweetness. "Watch your mouth, old lady," she hissed, her voice surprisingly low and dangerous. For a moment, we stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills. Finally, Sarah broke the silence, her voice regaining its saccharine quality. "Look, honey," she said, feigning concern. "The cops are on their way to escort you out. John wouldn't want any trouble." "The cops?" I scoffed, disbelief momentarily overriding my anger. "This is my house." "Not anymore, sweetie," Sarah purred, stepping closer. "Now get out before I have you removed." With a last glare at Sarah, I stormed out of the house, slamming the door with enough force to rattle the windows. Tears stung my eyes, a mixture of hurt and anger threatening to spill over. But I wouldn't give Sarah the satisfaction of seeing me cry. John might have taken the house, but he wouldn't break me. Taking a deep breath, I pulled out my phone, the screen illuminating my tear-streaked face. The dial tone buzzed in my ear, a lifeline thrown across the miles. It was Ethan, my son, the architect building his own life in another city. Hearing his familiar voice, rough with sleep but laced with concern, was a balm on the rawness of my emotions. Tears streamed down my face as I poured out the story, John's betrayal, the house, the whole damn mess. Ethan's stunned silence was almost deafening. When he finally spoke, his voice was tight with anger. "That old fool. Don't worry, Mom, I'm on the next flight. I'll kick his sorry but myself." A smile, tinged with sadness, touched my lips. "Thanks, honey, that means the world. But I can handle this. It's my fight." We talked for a while longer, his unwavering support a warm ember against the chill of betrayal. I rented a hotel room for a while. Sleep, however, was a stranger that night. My mind raced, fueled by anger and a sliver of hope. By morning, a plan had taken root, a fierce determination replacing the despair. The lawyer's office was a sterile haven of paperwork and legal jargon. Together, we unearthed the truth. John, in his haste, had forged my signature on the house sale documents. His little trick of selling the house to his mistress, Sarah, wouldn't hold water. The courtroom was a tense battleground. When the judge ruled in my favor, returning the house to me and splitting the business fairly, a wave of relief washed over me. It wasn't a complete victory, the laundromats paled in comparison to the hotel and restaurant John kept, but it was a start. The key felt heavy and satisfying in my hand as I approached the house. The front door swung open before I could even knock. There they stood, John and Sarah, faces stormy with frustration. John opened his mouth to speak, but the words died on his lips. "Shouldn't you two lovebirds be somewhere else celebrating your new life?" I asked, my voice laced with steely sarcasm. John sputtered, his face morphing between rage and disbelief. Sarah, her carefully applied makeup cracking, threw me a venomous look. "You won't get away with this," she hissed. I simply shrugged. "Actually, honey, I already have." 2 months had passed since the courthouse victory, and tonight, I was the guest of honor at the annual City Hope Charity Gala. Stepping out of the limousine, I took a deep breath, the cool night air tingling on my skin. Diamonds sparkled at my throat, a glittering shield against lingering vulnerability. Then I saw them. John and Sarah, a grotesque tableau of arrogance in the doorway. "Isabella," John drawled, his voice dripping with a false cordiality that made me want to spit. Looking, well. He didn't actually believe that, of course. Revenge, a dish best served cold, simmered in my veins. "John," I replied, my voice cool and controlled. "Try harder." He opened his mouth to retort, but I cut him off. "Don't worry," I said, my gaze flickering to Sarah. you have each other now. A perfect match of shallowness. John's smile faltered for a second, then he puffed out his chest. At least I have a young wife, he declared loudly, his voice aimed more at the gathering crowd than me. Someone beautiful, unlike. He didn't finish the sentence, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A flicker of anger sparked within me. Time for a little public education. As I was escorted towards the stage, the microphone felt heavy in my hand, a weapon more potent than any diamond. Good evening, everyone, I began, my voice ringing out clear and strong. Many of you know me as a businesswoman, but tonight, I want to share a different story, a story about betrayal, resilience, and ultimately, hope. Taking a deep breath, I recounted the events of the past few months, the locked door, the forged signature, the fight for what was rightfully mine. A hush fell over the audience, their eyes glued to me. And that's why, I concluded, my voice steady, I've decided to use my experience to help other women caught in similar situations. Tonight, I'm announcing the launch of the Isabella Foundation, a safe haven for women facing financial hardship due to divorce or separation. The room erupted in applause, a wave of support washing over me. John, his face flushed with humiliation, shrunk back into the shadows. Sarah, her carefully constructed facade crumbling, looked like a storm cloud about to burst. The charity gala had been a turning point. John and Sarah slunk away like scolded puppies, but their defeat was far from sweet. The next few days were a living hell. My phone buzzed incessantly with a barrage of vile texts from Sarah, each message a venomous attack on my looks, my age, anything she could dredge up to try and hurt me. Ignoring the digital bile, I called John. "Get your mistress under control," I demanded, my voice laced with steel. John's response was a cold laugh. "You made your bed, Isabella. Now lie in it." That callous response was all the confirmation I needed. John wasn't just content with leaving me, he actively wanted to see me fail. Fine. Two could play that game. John had kept the flashier La Famiglia restaurant, while I ended up with the chain of laundromats. Not exactly a fair split, but I wasn't about to let it break me. Digging deep, I sold a few of the less profitable laundromats. With the cash, I did some intel gathering and discovered that surprise, Sarah was now managing La Famiglia. A slow smile spread across my face. It was time for some good old-fashioned competition. Right next door to La Famiglia, a dusty old diner was up for sale. It wasn't much to look at, but the location was perfect. This was going to be my redemption song. The diner underwent a metamorphosis. Gone were the greasy booths and chipped mugs. In its place emerged a vibrant, modern eatery, Isabella's Kitchen. I poached most of John's best staff. Turns out, they weren't exactly thrilled about working for a screeching banshee like Sarah. I knew La Famiglia's weaknesses: overpriced, outdated menu, and terrible online presence. Isabella's Kitchen offered a fresh, seasonal menu at competitive prices. We launched a sleek website with online ordering and a generous loyalty program. The grand opening was a roaring success. The place buzzed with energy, a stark contrast to the gloomy silence next door. Word of mouth spread like wildfire. Customers who used to frequent La Famiglia for lack of options now had a superior choice. Sarah, predictably, showed up at my door, a screeching harpy, demanding to see a manager. The security guard, a burly ex-Marine I'd hired, took one look at her and politely suggested she take a hike. A year later, La Famiglia was a boarded-up shell, a testament to John's poor taste in both mistresses and business partners. As for me, Isabella's Kitchen was thriving, a beacon of success built on the ashes of betrayal. John, if you were listening, this one's for you. Never underestimate a woman scorned. A few months later, Ethan, my architect son, burst into my office, a glint of mischief in his eyes. We'd grown closer since my whole rebirth ordeal, and his visits were always a welcome break from the daily grind. This time, though, the news he carried was unusual. "Mom," he began, lowering his voice conspiratorially, "guess what the city's planning?" Spill it, kiddo, I said, putting down my pen, intrigued by the hushed tone. They're building a sewage treatment plant right next to Dad's fancy hotel. A slow smile crept across my face. John, bless his clueless heart, had poured all his remaining money into that hotel. It was his pride and joy, the last bastion of his successful post-divorce life. This little tidbit from Ethan, however, felt like the universe handing me a golden ticket. Are you sure? I asked, wanting to confirm the sweet, sweet karma. Positive. Ethan grinned. Saw the blueprints myself. Apparently, it's prime location for these treatment things. Not exactly the view Dad was banking on for his luxury experience. The image of tourists lounging by a pool while the aroma of raw sewage wafted through the air was enough to make me snort with laughter. Should I tip him off? Ethan asked, a mischievous glint in his eyes. The temptation was strong. But I remembered the abuse his mistress had hurled at me, and the pity disappeared from my heart. Nah, I said, a steely glint entering my own eyes. Let him stew in his own ignorance. This one's on him. John, ever the gambler, had also taken out a hefty loan to expand the hotel, further tying himself to the sinking ship. The news about the sewage plant hit the local news a few months later, causing a predictable public outcry. Tourists canceled reservations in droves, and John's once gleaming hotel became a ghost town. One morning, I woke up to news that the hotel had officially shut down. John, drowning in debt and a bitter taste of defeat, had vanished. My heart didn't exactly do a victory dance. After all, the man was still the father of my son, but a sense of quiet satisfaction settled in. Karma, it seemed, had a wicked sense of humor. Isabella's kitchen, meanwhile, was thriving. Life, it seemed, had a funny way of balancing the scales. John may have gotten his young wife, but I got the last laugh, and a thriving business, to boot. As I raised a glass of champagne in celebration that night, I silently toasted to a future filled with delicious food, loyal customers, and the sweet taste of well-deserved revenge. Isabella's kitchen wasn't just a restaurant anymore, it was my muse. The anger that fueled its creation had morphed into a deep passion for creating a unique dining experience. The real joy came from the happy faces around the tables, the satisfied murmurs about the food, the buzz of conversation that filled the air each night. Ethan, my ever-supportive son, saw this shift in me. He knew the story behind the restaurant, but also saw the potential it held. Mom, he said one day, his eyes gleaming with a familiar architect's fire, have I ever shown you my crazy ideas for expanding Isabella's kitchen? Crazy? I asked, intrigued. Ethan had a wild streak when it came to design, a quality I both admired and feared in equal measure. He pulled out a tablet, his finger flying across the screen. What unfolded was a vision that left me speechless. The existing building would be incorporated into a new, modern structure that defied categorization. Glass walls offered diners panoramic views of the city, while the rooftop transformed into a lush, open-air garden complete with cascading waterfalls and hidden nooks. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen, a bold statement that screamed Isabella's kitchen. Whoa, kiddo, I breathed, a grin splitting my face. That's insane. Exactly. Ethan grinned back. We can create an experience, Mom. Not just a place to eat, but a destination. We dove headfirst into the project. The construction phase was a whirlwind of activity, the constant hum of machinery a soundtrack to my excitement. Finally, the day arrived, the grand reopening of Isabella's Kitchen 2.0. The reaction was beyond anything I could have imagined. Journalists clamored for interviews, bloggers dubbed it the city's new architectural landmark, and customers lined up around the block for a chance to experience the transformed space. Business boomed, reservations became a necessity, and the success was intoxicating. As for John, well, rumors swirled that Sarah, the young gold digger, had finally gotten bored and flown the coop. He was apparently drowning in debt and, according to Ethan, had become a social pariah. Months melted into a blur of activity. Isabella's Kitchen 2.0 was a runaway success, the reservations booked solid weeks in advance. Ethan, my ever-enthusiastic partner in crime, was a whirlwind of ideas, constantly brainstorming new locations and menu concepts. The dream of a restaurant chain, once a distant flicker, was now a very real possibility. One crisp autumn afternoon, however, the past came knocking on my door, quite literally. It was John, looking like a deflated balloon, his once polished suit hanging off him like ill-fitting armor. The arrogance that used to define him was gone, replaced by a weary desperation. "Isabella," he rasped, his voice hoarse. "Can I come in?" "What do you want, John?" My voice was cool, devoid of the anger that used to simmer just beneath the surface. He shuffled in uninvited, his eyes darting around the tastefully decorated foyer. I need your help." The audacity of it almost made me laugh. This man, who had betrayed me, lied to me, and tried to take everything I had, now expected me to be his savior. "Help?" I echoed, my voice laced with disbelief. "After everything you've done?" John slumped onto a nearby chair, the bravado completely gone. "I messed up, Isabella," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "Big time. Sarah left me high and dry, the hotel's gone belly up, and I'm drowning in debt." A part of me, a very small part, felt a flicker of pity. But mostly, I felt a cold satisfaction. Karma, it seemed, had a hefty right hook. "So you want what?" I asked, my voice devoid of sympathy. "A handout? A loan?" John shook his head, a flicker of something like shame crossing his face. "No. I miss you. I miss the life we had." The laugh that escaped my lips was devoid of humor. "That life is gone, John. And you blew it up yourself." He looked like a kicked dog, his shoulders slumped in defeat. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "There's nothing I can do for you, John," I said finally, my voice firm. "You need to make your own bed now, and lie in it." He stood up slowly, defeat etched on his face. "I understand," he mumbled, shuffling towards the door. I wanted you to know I was sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix things, John," I said, the last vestige of pity evaporating. "It never did." He nodded, his face a mask of misery, and stepped out into the cool afternoon air. I watched him go, a strange sense of peace settling over me. Life, it seemed, had a funny way of working itself out. Standing there, the scent of success swirling around me, I knew one thing for certain: never give up on yourself, fight for what's yours, and never underestimate the power of a good revenge dish, served piping hot with a side of self-made success.